We're good.
Call the Broken Arrow City Council meeting to order. We have invocation by Pastor Chauncey.
Barely.
Just slid right in.
All right, good evening, everyone. Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank and praise you for this meeting and this great city of Broken Arrow. We thank you, Father, for all that you are doing here in our city. We lift up this entire city council, and we thank you, Father, for all of the other leaders that are in this room today. We thank you, Father, for your continual prosperity over this city and economic increase. We thank you, God, for your constant protection, and we ask that there will be unity in tonight's meeting. God, we thank you for wisdom that's needed to make right decisions for Broken Arrow and for moving it forward. We thank you for insight, and we also thank you for proper strategies for implementation. God, we thank you for your sovereign will being done here in the city of Broken Arrow at all times, and we thank you, pray and praise you for hearing and answering our prayers tonight. We give you honor and thanks and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you, sir. Will you guys please stand and join Councilor Ford in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Excuse me, roll call first.
Oh, every time. I just was ready to pledge. We're ready for roll call.
That's all right. Green,
You can say
Ford,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Whippy.
here. Okay.
Please stand. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any items from the consent agenda that needs to be removed?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Yes, motion and a second. Roll call. Item 7 is public hearings, appeals, presentation, recognitions, and awards. 7A is presentation of Tulsa County Court Clerk Satellite Office in Broken Arrow. And Jennifer Rush is going to share an annual report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager. I'm very excited to be introducing Tulsa County Court Clerk Dawn Newberry, who's here, and also Randy Profit with Tulsa County to talk about the successful partnership that we've had with our satellite office here in Broken Arrow within the TED office. My team has really enjoyed partnering with them on the marriages, and I think we're providing a great atmosphere for people to have memories of the Rose District that last just beyond eating and shopping. So really excited to present them, and they can come up and give their report.
I just learned that I think the mayor can marry people.
I was getting. Oh, she said you can. You've got to do that.
Anyone want to get married?
Anybody want to get married? Just kidding. Marry you. Not to
Anyone?
us.
Joe?
We're already married.
We're already married.
Yeah, already married.
Yeah, I don't want to marry you.
Hi.
Hey.
How y'all doing? I'm gonna come around and shake your hand. But I got this cane.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Yep.
Hey, man. Well, I actually thought I was gonna have to wait a little bit before I got up here. But that's good. So this has been, I don't know, we've been doing this for a few years now. And it's really been a great thing. Last year, 37% of the licenses that we wrote came from Broken Arrow. That's a total of about 1,613 licenses, which is pretty amazing. That's 1,613 people that initially did not have to go downtown and fight traffic to get a marriage license. They came down here.
They didn't have to leave our city.
That's right, and they got to come down here and spend money on Main Street. That's a big deal for you guys. So this year we're going to continue the momentum. We expect there'll be more. I think that we're going to see on the 24th of this month, I think is probably going to be, that's going up on the board. Our single most, probably biggest day ever is what we're expecting because of the date. People seem to like dates. So we're going to do 4/24/24, and so we think that's going to be a big day. But it's been a great partnership. we thank you guys for letting us come down here and be a part of this city, and we love Broken Arrow. Do y'all have any questions?
Do you do anything other than marriage license?
So we have opened it up to some civil filings. We've kind of limited that. I think there was some confusion there for a minute, and we had some divorce filings in there, which was not part of the plan. So,
We just marry him, we don't divorce
but
him.
we've since stopped that because it's just a little too complicated for that office. But we do have where they can bring like pleadings and some civil filings and things like that, just to try to assist attorneys and be able to, do business without having to travel and spend money, which is great. So.
And there's some dates in December you can pay your property tax and not have to go.
Oh yeah, we do open it up to the other offices so they can come in. The assessor comes in so people can come and do their homestead exemptions. Then the treasurer comes in. I think they come in once or twice and do property tax payments, which, that's kind of a negative thing for our office. But I mean, it's nice to not have to drive downtown to do it, I guess.
Right.
But, but,
You know,
You
your
have to do
your
it.
staff is so friendly. Every time I go in there, they're just happy to see, anybody, and they just make you feel very welcome. So you have a really good staff working
we have
out
a
of there.
great staff.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of our staff on both places. And also the returns are another big item. So when you get a marriage license, then your minister has to bring it back. And so we get a lot of returns down here, and that helps those people as well. And they're traveling here instead of downtown. And they're getting to see what y'all have done on the Rose District, which is amazing, by the way. And the continued things you're doing down here are just incredible. We really, really like it. So
You can have dinner after you leave here.
I may.
So I do have one question about homestead exemptions. I know you can do them online,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
But
I believe so.
And
Yeah.
so if because my daughter did that online, and so that's all she has to do?
She should be fine, as long as she
Okay.
did it by the shut-off date. I think is March 30th, I
Okay,
think.
yeah.
It's been a couple years since I was in the assessor's office.
Yeah, I think it
so-
is. I think you're
But I
right.
think it's
So
March
if
30th
she
is
just
the
did it, it
homestead.
wouldn't go in until next year then.
Right, so if
Okay.
it was after that, it goes.
Even though
to
she's
fall.
lived there for like 3 years and has never done it, so,
So,
yeah, okay.
All right. Thank you,
anything
sir.
else? You guys are great. All right, thank you. Thanks for having us here, and thanks for letting us give the presentation.
You bet.
I'll just hobble on back up. I'm getting this fixed tomorrow. by the way.
Okay.
Okay, good.
That had no action needed. So item 7B, approval of an authorization to execute a proclamation declaring the week of April 14th through the 20th, 2024 as National Telecommunicators Week. Sorry. Chief Berryhill,
And if your guests that are going to come down, we're going to take a little
hobbling.
while for one.
We got a lot of
Walking.
members tonight.
I'm going to read while they're coming down.
Okay.
So, Mayor, Mr. Spurgeon, City Manager, City Council, this evening I've got a proclamation to declare April 14th to 20th National Telecommunicators Week. Just some basic facts. The National Association of Public Safety Communications, or APCO International, and the National Emergency Number Association, NENA, celebrate this week as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Our telecommunicators, 911 dispatchers, are the first responders that we have. They're the first point of contact when people need help. They took 49,000 911 calls last year and a total of 173,000 calls in one call center. Over the past few years, the City Council has been very kind and added 5 more dispatch positions to our dispatch center. We are actually, except for one position, soon will be fully staffed, which has not happened in the last 30 years other than like 1 week at a time. So we're very fortunate for that. I have today with us Stephen Bradley. Stephen Bradley is the manager of the Communications Center. He's been an employee with the City of Broken Arrow for 42 years. Many of his cohorts are in training and they weren't able to be here. Also, we have Major John Walls and Captain Brandon Teener. They're the sworn officers that are over the support division. And there is a proclamation. I don't know, Steve, did you want to say anything? Yeah, a few words. John. Yep.
Thank you for giving me a moment. I'm just going to go over a little bit of what a telecommunicator does for those of you who don't know. The Broken Arrow Police Department Communications Division is responsible for answering all emergency and non-emergency calls for the City of Broken Arrow. These calls include citizens in need of police, fire, medical, animal control, and other city services such as sewer backups, water line breaks, things like that. The dispatch center currently executes the mission with an authorized strength of 19 dispatchers, 4 call takers, 4 shift supervisors, Mr. Bradley at the helm, and Brandon Reynolds is his immediate assistant. Broken Arrow is the only dispatch center in Oklahoma serving a population of more than 40,000 who takes care of all public safety dispatching, police, fire, and medical. Oftentimes the medical is farmed out if they're contracting a service such as IMSA. Dispatchers and call takers receive calls from citizens in distress and in need of emergency services. Unfortunately, our citizens calling are often having the worst day of their life. Communications personnel work through the chaos, emotion, and stress to attain vital information. This information allows them to determine the necessary response and provide services very quickly and efficiently. Dispatchers are not only required to speak effectively and professionally with callers, but also with first responders en route to or already on scene of high-stress situations. The job of a telecommunicator is at times extremely stressful. Shift work, as well as working weekends and holidays, is undesirable but necessary. Telecommunicators are easy to forget as they are tucked away in the communication center of the public safety complex, but they are the voice behind the badge. They are the calm in the storm, working tirelessly to keep citizens and first responders safe. Without this group of special, highly trained personnel, there would be no city services arriving on scene. The Broken Arrow Police Department recognizes the vital role they play in maintaining order and safety in this great city. Today and every day, we thank them for their dedication to the mission and the citizens of Broken Arrow. Thank you.
Before you read the proclamation, I do want to say I'm not just the chief, I'm a customer. Both my parents have passed away, and I had to call 911 for both of them, and the staff was very professional. Thank you to the fire department for transports, but I cannot say enough about them. So,
Mayor, do you want to mention, or
I would love to mention this. So we just, we had a citizen survey, almost 4,000 people responded, and I had asked for our dispatch, our police dispatch to be police, fire, and our ambulance service dispatch to be pulled from our regular call takers like in City Hall, thinking because they have to be so direct, so to the point, you know, they don't have a lot of times for, you know, thank you, please, and all those. I was afraid it would maybe drag down like the City Hall's receptionist people, but happily surprised, not too surprising, our police dispatch got 85% rating of how the kind, the 85%. So that's the highest.
Yeah.
It was huge. So I hate that our communication officers aren't here. Hopefully they'll watch it. But I mean, we have mothers and daughters that work, maybe on the same shift, some maybe not. We have sons and daughters of police officers that have retired or, you know, passed away since then. And I know you all went through the Citizens Police Academy when I was in charge of it, so you got a little taste of it. Justin, of course, he's very connected to it, but I could not be a communication officer at all. I mean, I talk too much, clearly, but it's like we have the best communication officers in the state. They are professional, and it's not just a job until they go to another job. This is their career. And so when, you know, the officers, they get lots of treats, you know, and they get lots of free food. So everybody, it's Telecommunications Week. Take some cookies by to communications, drop them off at public safety, take care of them because they're doing an amazing job. And Steve, that has a lot to do with your leadership because you were there when I was there, and I know how detail oriented you are and how good you are with your people, or you wouldn't have so many people stay as long as they do. So thank you for that leadership.
Well, we got a good rating because we have some very, very good people. It takes a long time to find them, and we do our best to keep them.
Great job, you all.
I can read it. Okay.
I don't think I'm allowed to read whereases. I think it's a...
Oh, yeah.
It's a mayor thing.
It's a mayor thing.
And all the treats are placed right outside of dispatch, by the way.
That's
It's
true.
in their break room. So.
I know that. I just thought I'd share a little love.
They can have their own specific treats.
Yes, their own treats.
So, on behalf of the City of Broken Arrow, whereas dedicated telecommunicators for the City of Broken Arrow provide dramatic life-saving services by talking distressed callers through CPR, Heimlich maneuvers, childbirth instruction, calming hysterical crime victims, and they make difficult decisions using limited information to save lives or reduce property damage on a daily basis. And whereas the 911 Center system contributes substantially to the health and safety of the citizens of Broken Arrow through the timely delivery of emergency calls to the correct emergency response agency and the automatic identification of the caller's phone numbers and locations. And whereas the prompt response of police, firefighters, and medics is critical to protecting life and preserving property, it also results in the apprehension of criminals, the suppression of fires, and timely treatment of the ill and injured. And whereas the men and women of the Broken Arrow Public Safety Communications Center have conscientiously answered thousands of emergency calls during the past year, and provided fast assistance and needed assurance to victims of accidents, crime, and illness. And whereas the critical functions performed by these telecommunicators play a significant role in the daily lives of approximately 100,000 plus Broken Arrowans. And whereas these telecommunicators provide the vital link between the citizens in need of help and public safety first responders. Whereas Congress, in cooperation with the National Emergency Number Association and Associated Public Safety Communications officials, has set aside the second week in April to recognize the efforts of these dedicated people. Now, therefore, I, Deborah Wempe, Mayor of the City of Broken Arrow, do hereby proclaim April 14th through 20th, 2024 as Telecommunicators Appreciation Week, and encourage all citizens of Broken Arrow to recognize the value of this system in our daily lives and to acknowledge the dedicated people who oversee its operation every minute of every day for our safety. In witness whereof, I hereby unto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Broken Arrow to be affixed the 16th day of May, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize to execute the proclamation declaring the week of April 14th through 20th, 2024 as a National Telecommunicators Week. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 7C, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an appeal to the hearing officers for property owner Adam Macon at 204 West Pittsburgh Place, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Amanda.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Mr. Spurgeon. What we have before us today is an appeal of an administrative decision to deny a permit for a short-term rental. The owner, Adam Macon, at 204 West Pittsburgh, applied for a short-term rental zoning clearance permit on January 29th, 2024. Staff reviewed the zoning clearance permit on February 14th, 2024, and denied the permit due to the fact that there's an existing short-term rental within 300 feet of this property. The zoning ordinance indicates that short-term rentals cannot be within 300 feet of an existing short-term rental property. The short-term rental license for 1601 Ash Place, which was within the said radius, was approved on December 13th, 2023. The property owner has requested that the council hear his appeal to this decision. This was heard by council originally on March 5th, 2023. You all had requested that we send out a notification to all property owners within 300 feet of a public hearing. So that has been completed, and we are here before you today. The applicant is here.
Okay. Is he going to come and speak?
Thank you, City Council. Amanda did a good job of reviewing everything, so I'll just talk about anything that transpired since the last meeting. It wasn't much. I did block off the dates. If you'll remember, last time I had a long-term guest in, so I blocked off the dates. And I know one of the concerns last time was about the precedent that could be set for this appeal. It would be my thought that when we look back to last year, as I had on the timeline, when that 300-foot radius was established, then any appeal after April of last year wouldn't have the same standing. And of course my appeal was based on the fact that I wasn't able to get permitted based on a parking restriction prior to the conflicting property. I know there was one of my neighbors that was here and signed a paper, I think that Amanda has, but what probably would speak the most is neighbors that are directly to the east of me, and they have been there, excuse me, a lot longer than I have. We've been there 6 years almost, short-term rental. But James and Kathy have been there longer than us, so they're here to speak on my behalf. I'd like to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions?
So we can hear.
Or Kathy.
Okay. Okay.
He told me he wasn't into public speaking.
Yeah,
None of us are.
Better than answering questions.
Yeah.
So we live directly 200 West Pittsburgh Place, and been there 2012. She's been there longer. So anyway, great. You know, hadn't had any issues with any of the people staying there. Keeps good. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, okay. I think that's what we wanted to hear. Is
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
anybody else?
We do have one, Jay Clark. He does not want to speak, but he is in support. It says this house is maintained well. Adam is respectful and responsive, and we have not had any issues with guests in our occupancy during the occupancy.
And I've thought about this since he came, and it's important to me that our neighborhoods don't become basically hotels, because that's the reason we set the ordinance. I do think that this one, I think we could justify making an exception since the process already started before we set the ordinance in place. I don't know that for me, it wouldn't set a precedent because of that fact, and there was really no way he was in the middle of getting, things done. So when we set the ordinance, so if that makes a difference.
Have all the things been done that were supposed to be met as far as the parking and everything? Has all that been met up to this point?
All the criteria met per the zoning ordinance except for the 300-foot radius requirement.
And we didn't hear from any other citizens.
We had no phone calls. No one called in asking questions. I will say he's still, if approved, would still need to go through like the maintenance inspection, all that kind of stuff that anybody would normally have to go through. But there's no other zoning issues with this case.
Okay.
We had passed the inspection, so we passed and I understand that's the year of the inspection, but we passed the inspection on our first attempt, and that's when we applied for the permit and had that initial denial. So sorry to interrupt, but so we're past our first inspection, then we would do it yearly.
Okay.
Okay.
Amanda, I did notice on the paper that it was said in March of 23, that we, postponed it for a little bit. Is that correct? I think it was this year.
Oh, it was, yeah.
So I just think that needs to be modified.
I'm sorry. Yes, the date
just
was
because
that
this is an
report.
ongoing type deal.
Yeah, you're correct.
And that being said, I'd make a motion that we approve the crest.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 7D, presentation and discussion of street closure permit for the lane closure of eastbound traffic on Houston Street immediately east of 23rd Street. It was Charlie, then it was Zach, and we're back to Charlie.
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, Mr. Spurgeon. My name is Charlie Bright. I'm the Director of Engineering and Construction. So as you guys know, we have a process for street closure permits throughout the city. That process goes through staff, and ultimately the authority rests with Mr. Spurgeon as city manager. I'm not asking for any action tonight, but for significant impact ones, I've wanted to bring them up to the council's attention, and just to bring to the general public's attention. We've had our contractor working through ODOT on 23rd Street County Line at 81st Street, Houston, put in a request to shut down a lane or potentially both lanes of the eastbound side of that intersection. So we're talking 81st and County Line eastbound towards Highway 51. The current road that exists today and obstructions on either side make it too narrow for us to do work on one shoulder or the other and still have room for two-way traffic. And so as I stand here today, I don't even know 100% what our plan is going to be on how we're going to do this, because we were negotiating it up to 2 hours ago. But I wanted to bring it to your guys' attention because it'll probably happen before the next council meeting. But ultimately, we're looking at a couple of different plans. One plan being multiple one-day closures where we only allow one lane, one traffic going eastbound and shutting down westbound traffic, I believe. That may need to flip at some point. The other option is they're giving us is a potential just 4 or 5 day complete shutdown both directions, but they can get all work done in that time. We are working that through with the contractor right now. As staff, our direction to the contractor has been, we want to make this as minimally impactful to the schools as possible, knowing that it affects their bus routes and everything else. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. I can't stand here today and say I have an exact date or plan, but we will notify our communications team and everything else when we do have a plan.
Any questions or
So,
discussion?
so the westbound traffic would still be moving no matter what, or are you
I
saying
think
it might be both?
if we choose to do one-way traffic at some point, it'd be 1 day at a time that we do that.
Okay.
My understanding is they may flip it, so on certain days you might be allowed to go eastbound, and then on some other days you might be allowed to go westbound. Obviously, there'd be plenty of signage and everything that directs that, and we would get communications out when those days were to come. But that would help them be able to work on both sides of the street when they need to get it done.
It just would be good to get it done in the shortest time as we can.
Agreed.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
whatever that is.
Agreed, and that's been our discussion. There's some other concerns. We've tried to get this on, fall on weekends, so it's least impactful to schools. The problem is they have to lay asphalt, and asphalt plants don't typically run on weekends, and this is not gonna be a large enough, job for that day for them to turn the asphalt plants on. So we're trying to work it at a time that they can run the asphalt plants and we can be as minimally impactful as possible. But at some point, we're gonna have to impact it.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 8 is citizens' opportunity to address the council. We have one, I'm not sure if, Keith Johnson. All right. Item 9 is general council business. 9A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval to execute a professional consultant agreement with Crossland Heavy Contractors. Charlie.
Good evening again, Mayor and Vice Mayor, Council members, Mr. Spurgeon. My name is Charlie Bright, I'm Director of Engineering and Construction. So this one is a little different than how we normally do things, but this is obviously in relationship to the Sunset Amphitheater. We decided early on in the process, due to the speed that we were moving on this project and how we were moving forward, to hire a construction manager for the project instead of our normal design, bid, build, and then get the GC. What's presented tonight is the contract with the construction manager. Our staff, I want to say it was back in like November, went through the process of getting proposals from several construction managers. We received 3 proposals and we had a unanimous decision to choose Crossland Heavy Contractors. What's on the contract today is the base contract for the services they will provide and for construction, and then their fee for helping us in pre-construction services. So they've been a part of the team so far, helping us with the design and planning the design in a way that gets us to the end date that we're trying to hit, working on constructability and all the coordination and everything else. What you will see is after this contract is here tonight, tentatively, I think it's set for the next council meeting, we will have an amendment to this contract, which will be the GMP, which is the guaranteed maximum price for construction. And that'll be the big dollar figure that we'll actually be paying them for the total construction. But tonight is just the fee for their pre-construction services. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
We're talking about our construction, right?
This is
Everything-
just our portion.
Everything that we're constructing and that's part.
Yes, sir. This is just the infrastructure that's for us. The developer, Notes Live, has hired Crossland Commercial to do theirs, and that is 2 different companies.
Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the request.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Thank you, guys.
I think you're up again. Item 9B, consideration, discussion, and possible award of the lowest responsible bid to A&A Asphalt. Oh. Yeah.
Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Mr. Spurgeon, before you today is, for consideration is a construction contract for the 23rd Street between Albany and Kenosha. This is for resurfacing as well as reconnecting some sidewalks that currently have gaps and reconstructing the islands near Kenosha where Kenosha comes down near the Quick Trip where Kenosha and 23rd Street meet. The staff is recommending, so I'll say this. Staff worked very swiftly with the consultant on this project to ensure at the direction of city management that this project would not impact the schools. Therefore, we are doing everything outside of school session. So after the Memorial Day weekend, but prior to the start of school in the fall. We had 4 bidders. Actually staff is recommending the award to the second lowest bidder, which we believe is the lowest responsible bidder. That's A&A Asphalt, in the amount of $923,957.70. That is approximately $45,000 more than the lowest bidder. However, after the city vetted the lowest apparent bidder, there was significant concerns with their existing staff based on previous project experience. I can answer any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions?
I recommend approval as presented.
Okay.
I do appreciate you doing, kind of vetting the other ones and making this recommendation.
Absolutely, and it was only approximately 5% increase over the lowest bidder.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 9C has been pulled. Item 9D, and Cindy, if you want to address why, you can.
Oh, why 9C was
Yeah.
pulled? 9C was, we had a hotel who had not been filing their 4% hotel motel tax, but they did come in yesterday afternoon and pay.
But item 9D
is one that has not. According to the Broken Arrow Code, section 22-112, there's an excise tax of 4%, which all the hotels are required to pay for on their gross receipts. We have notified the owner of Homewood Suites multiple times. He was paying on a very consistent basis, but for the last 6 months he has failed to pay or filed. This is just notification or asking for permission. If needed, we can file in the district court because they owe us $49,674. Before we do file the legal documents, I'm going to personally try to reach out. One of my staff has been sending letters every single month, and they've been ignored. So, but I will try personally to reach out, and if they do not pay, then we will go ahead and file suit.
I don't know if this question, you're not going to know this answer, I'm pretty sure, but you know the program that Officer Peel started with the hoteliers. I'm just curious on if Homewood Suites has met all the other criteria that we had
set in place.
That's a good question. I can find out, and
because there may be more to it than just paying the taxes that we need to address.
Yeah,
which that's big, but.
If I may, I received a report from Chief Berryhill, which I will send it to council.
Okay.
Updating on that very program.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Staff recommends approval of Resolution 15-7 and authorizes execution.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 1570.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Roll call. All right, item 9E, consideration, discussion, and possible appointment of 2 city council members and 1 external representative, Jeff Hewitt, to the Broken Arrow Finance Audit Committee.
On December 17, 2019, we adopted an ordinance establishing the Broken Arrow Finance Audit Committee, and it was going along very well for a while, but then it's kind of like fell off. So I really would like to get it started again. Okay. So at this point, we need to have 2 counselors and an outside person pointed to, and I know Mr. Hewitt was interested, and he did it last time, and he can continue. We just need to reappoint him and then pick 2 council members.
And I think Johnny and I served last time. Did you serve?
It was Mr. Udi.
Oh, it was Udi. Okay, that's right.
And that's when it kind of fell apart after he was.
Yeah, we haven't, I don't think we've met in a while, so.
Do you want to continue?
I wouldn't mind serving, but I didn't serve.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind continuing, so.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for Mr. Parks and Mayor Wimpy.
Second?
I'll second it. Oh, well, you can second it.
I needed one more committee.
Me too. How often do we meet?
Too
late, yes, we've already voted.
I really would like quarterly or every other month. And when
all
our
voted.
first meeting, we will set up a schedule because it really needs to be like every other month.
Okay, I can handle that.
Because we're doing monthly financials now, and then, you know, they'll be coming up like the bond issues and stuff like that to go over manual fees. There's certain things coming up in the fall that it'd be great if we could meet.
And if we can maybe do it, like, I think we've done it a number of times right before council meetings, so
Correct.
that we can just, we'll come up here early.
I appreciate Jeff Hewitt too, willing to continue to serve. He does a really good job. We're in Rotary with him, and I'm glad he's willing to serve again. I think that's a good pick.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 9F, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the reappointment of Jonathan Townsend to the Broken Arrow Planning Commission for a 3-year term. Rocky Hinkle.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of council. Rocky Hinkle, Community Development Director. Planning Commission members are appointed to serve a 3-year term. Mr. Townsend's service would end on May 5th. He is appointed by Mr. Council Parks. We have reached out to him. He's expressed his willingness to serve another 3-year term, which would expire on May 5th of 2027.
I'd make that motion, we appoint Jonathan Townsend.
Second?
A motion and a second. Roll call.
No discussion.
Oh, sorry. Did you want to discuss something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So do you want to vote?
Curtis was giving me the side eye over there.
Item 9G, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the reappointment of Jason Cohen.
Same thing for Mr. Cohen, who was appointed by Councilor Ford, and he has agreed to serve another 3-year term as well.
I'll make the motion.
Any discussion?
Sorry.
I would say he's a good appointment too.
I was like, he's my appointment. Do we have to discuss it? No, I'm kidding. I'll second. And he's done a really good job. When I first interviewed him, he really studied it. Did you get a second? Did I get a second? Do I need to sell this?
I seconded it.
Okay.
That were good.
Item 9H, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the reappointment of J. Lee Klempa.
And this is for Ms. Klempa, who was appointed by Vice Mayor Ms. Gillespie.
And I will make the motion. If nobody has any discussion, I'll make a motion.
A motion and a second. Roll call.
Jaylee's currently the chair, and she's doing a great job.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 9I, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a 30 to 60-day extension to adopt the updated zoning ordinance. Rocky Hinkle.
Yes, back in November 7th of 2023, we brought forth the zoning ordinance changes to this body. At that time, we decided to table it for another 90 days because we had received additional input that we wanted to look into that information. That was set to expire yesterday on April 15th. And so since that time, staff has received additional information that we'd like to vet through before we bring it forward to you in the next 30 to 60 days for adoption.
So that hasn't been adopted yet. I mean, we've
Correct.
talked about it in several meetings.
We've extended 90 days, and this is another extension for
Just
another
wanna
30
make
to 60
sure.
before we bring it to you for adoption. Correct, sir.
This is so important, and so I think it's very good that we're not just
Rushing to judgment, yeah.
just jumping in and updating something without,
Yeah.
dotting our I's and crossing our T's, all of them.
Yeah, it's huge for our future of the city, and just because it's a national trend, this city doesn't normally follow national trends, so.
Mayor,
That's
if
true.
the council members feel it necessary to have a special meeting before a regular meeting to talk about, have a rehash of it, that is certainly something that could be scheduled.
I think that might be a
think
good
so.
idea, because just to make sure that we remember everything that we talked about.
And I want to make sure that it falls in line with our comp plan. you know what I mean, or, you know what I mean, how that zoning is gonna relate to those two, because they work hand in hand.
Right. I'll make a motion for the 60-day extension.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Thank you, Rocky. Item 9J, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding BAZ 1334-2024 for Floral Haven expansion. Amanda.
Good evening again. BAZ 1334-2024 and SP 1335-2024 is a request to change the zoning designation on approximately 9.8 acres of land from agriculture and RS1 to agriculture and SP 1335. This property is located approximately north of Kenosha Street and a quarter mile west of Olive Avenue and is currently unplatted. The specific use permit is a request to allow for an expansion of Floral Haven Cemetery, which is directly to the east of the subject tract. According to the zoning ordinance, the cemetery is only permitted in the A1 zoning district with a specific use permit, hence the reason the specific use permit application has been filed. On March 28th, 2024, these items were heard by the Planning Commission. We did have one neighbor email in a letter of support for the proposal. During the public hearing, 4 community members spoke in opposition. Concerns included health concerns, fence requirements, loss of nature, and property value. Planning Commission did recommend approval of these items with a few changes to the staff recommendation. Those were a new legal description being submitted that was similar to the area out in the light green there. Originally, the application was for that entire parcel, but the plan was to only develop the 9.8 acres, so we got a revised legal description to be approved this evening. Staff also recommended that plating be waived subject to all necessary right-of-way and utility easements being provided, and also the installation of an opaque fence to be required on the property line where the specific use permit abuts a neighboring property. So that would mainly be to the south, to the RV park. So staff is recommending approval of BAZ 1334-2024 and SP 1335-2024 per Planning Commission and staff recommendations. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I think when I went back and watched the commission, there was several that spoke in opposition to this, right?
Yes. And it was specifically, was it about just keeping the, because I'm looking at an email I got.
There were some
the small
concerns.
area adjacent to the trailer park is what they called it, RV park, whatever. That would be rezoned. That was it. That's going to be rezoned right
Correct.
now.
If you can pull up the exhibit again, that'll show you. So the area that's kind of light green there, that's not treed, that's the area that's proposed to be developed at this time. The rest of it wouldn't be touched. So there was a little confusion because the application was submitted for that entire parcel. So the applicant went back and revised that legal description to only include the part that they're going to develop right now, and that was 9.8 acres. So if they were to develop that treed area, they'd have to come back before the Planning Commission and City Council again to revise the specific use permit.
I'm sorry, what was the request for, they want something waived?
Platting. So typically, to develop property, we require that the property be platted. For a cemetery type use, there's not really much to gain by platting. There's not a lot of utilities required. So the right-of-way and utility easement dedications would be primarily along the arterial street. If those are dedicated in accordance with city codes and ordinances, we see no reason to not waive the platting requirement for the rest of the property.
How much would that fee be, approximately?
It depends on how much land is there. We don't actually charge people to dedicate right-of-way and utility easements, so they would have the fee associated with any surveying, and then filing the fee. I believe it's like $25, so it's fairly minimal.
So the road to the south there, I guess it's an entrance?
Yes.
That's gonna be a private, that's not the city anywhere in there, so we don't need any right-of-way anywhere around it, is that correct?
That's correct. The only place we would need right-of-way is if we ever did a future expansion of Kenosha Street. So we would ask for the ultimate right-of-way along that little section where it abuts Kenosha, but nothing internal to the site.
What is that right-of-way at that point? Is it?
It should be about 60 feet, I believe.
And we don't have that 60 feet at that location?
Not at that location.
So we should request that right of way. And
Yeah,
while
that was
we're
a
at it,
requirement.
I would like to request some right of way that we've been trying to get from Floral Haven for a while now.
On Olive.
Can we hold off on this until we make that request?
That's up to legal.
Vice Mayor, you can make a motion to table
Okay.
the item and.
So my motion would be, and for the people that are watching that don't know, we're trying to obtain some right-of-way from Floral Haven. It's nothing to do with the people that work here at Floral Haven, but we're trying to widen a road and we're not able to obtain the right-of-way because of the exorbitant cost of it.
They're trying to charge.
Yeah, so my motion would be that we table this item requesting the right-of-way that we've along Olive, but also this right-of-way along Kenosha.
I'll second it.
Do you want to speak to the applicant? I believe he's present.
Oh, sure.
It's
Can they
up to
make
you
a
all.
decision?
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you make a decision, since it is a public hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what's going on. Oh, he does. Oh, okay.
Madam Mayor, Lou Reynolds, 2727 East 21st Street, Suite 200, Tulsa, 74114. We're in agreement with staff's recommendation. We're not in agreement with the tabling this in order to obtain right-of-way from Floral Haven along Olive. I'm not aware of that issue, but there's a if you will, the Supreme Court requires a direct nexus between what you're asking for and what we're asking for. There's no connection between what we're asking for here, fronting Kenosha, and what may be fronting Olive. And so I think that they're unrelated to each other. I wasn't aware of the issue, or I'd been prepared for it, but I didn't know there was an issue. But they're unrelated, and that's not a fair ask. So I would ask that you consider this as recommended by your Planning Commission, recommended by your staff. Complies with your zoning code, the use of the property complies with the zoning district, and complies with all the federal and state regulations related to this activity. So if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Then you would agree that we could get the plating for that, at least where it ties on to 71st Street?
Oh, well, absolutely. We'll dedicate any right-of-way the city needs in connection with this, along for this property.
Danny, do you agree with his assessment of that?
I agree that there is some case law out there. However, I would say that if we want to make an offer to Floral Haven, we have the absolute right to do that. You can table this matter, make the offer, depending on what they say, then we can bring this back if that's what the council wishes to do.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll stick with my motion. We're not saying we're not going to approve it, we're just tabling it for now with the offer. So.
And I'll stick with my second.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second to table the item. Item 9K, considerations, discussion, and possible approval of PUD 1360.
All right, here I am again. All right, PUD 1360-2024 and BAZ 1206-2023 are concurrent applications to rezone approximately 38 acres from A1 agriculture to RS4 single-family residential along with the PUD. This is located north of Tucson Street and a quarter-mile west of 9th Street. The property is presently undeveloped and unplatted. These applications pertain to land use and lot sizes, but they do not consider home sizes or prices, as those are not part of the zoning ordinance. These proposed Spring Creek Crossing development consists of single-family residential homes on individual lots. The maximum number of dwelling units proposed in this development is 145. With a minimum lot size of 50 by 100 or 5,000 square feet. Per the RS4 standards of street zoning, approximately 214 lots would be permitted. Again, home sizes are not within the purview of the zoning application or the PUD. The PUD proposes a minimum of 15% or 5.7 acres of open space in the form of stormwater detention, ponds, reserve areas, interconnecting sidewalks and trails, community gardens, and or parks. The development will be served by public streets. Primary access would be from one entry onto Tucson Street, which aligns with 3rd Street to the south. An existing stub street at East Riley Street will provide connection to Southbridge Park subdivision to the west. Per the Broken Arrow subdivision regulations, a gate may not be installed on public streets. The engineering design criteria manual requires that a traffic impact analysis be performed by proposed development if the development meets the criteria established by the ODOT policy on driveway and regulations for the Oklahoma highways. This would be evaluated during the platting process. The developer has committed to the installation of a traffic light on Tucson Street, directly across from 3rd Street, as part of this development. RS4 zoning is considered to be in conformance with the comprehensive plan in level 2. The PUD is proposed to be developed in accordance with the RS4 districts, except as specified in the design statement, which was part of your packet. All changes are in accordance with the RSC district, which was the proposed zoning district for the new zoning ordinance, which we just tabled. This application had originally come forward with the assumption that that zoning ordinance would be passed. Since we're not ready to do that yet, they're coming forward with an application and a PUD that very closely, actually, it's identical to what our new code would be if it had been passed. The applicant held a community meeting on Thursday, March 21st at 6 o'clock. 13 residents attended the meeting and asked questions relating to traffic, fencing, detention ponds, and the 50-foot buffer areas. A petition in opposition to this development was submitted to the city clerk's office on Monday, March 25th, 2024. The petition had 91 signatures representing 37 properties in the surrounding 300-foot radius of the subject tract. An independent analysis of the petition was done by INCOG to determine the percentages of properties represented by the petition. Per the analysis, 22% of the properties located inside the 300-foot radius, excluding the right-of-way and subject tract, were represented by the petition. Per the state statutes, the submitted petition does not represent the minimum land area of 50% representation to trigger a 3/5 vote by council. This item was considered by Planning Commission on March 28th and recommended for approval with a 4-0 vote. 9 residents spoke in opposition to this development at the meeting. Primary concerns included increased traffic on Tucson Street and through the existing neighborhoods, increased burden on the school system, unproportionate density of the proposed development, and fencing along the 50-foot buffers. Assistant City Manager Kenny Schwab spoke to the traffic in the area in relation to the schools. Mr. Schwab has provided a traffic report as part of your packet that you can look over. Commissioner Goranson, the Vice Chairman for the Planning Commission, showed a map of elementary and middle school enrollment boundaries to show the total area of land that each school encompasses. He stated that the development anywhere within these boundaries will have an impact on the school systems, and these documents are also attached to your packet. The applicant provided calculations on the density of the proposed development. The proposed development has a maximum density of approximately 3.91 units per acre. Just for context, the neighboring addition to the west has the addition to the west of the proposed addition has an existing density of approximately 3.44 acres, units per acre. Perimeter fencing along the 50-foot buffer areas is not required by the zoning ordinance. Fencing will be required along the arterial street frontage of the property. Per the proposed PUD, trees and existing vegetation in the 50-foot buffer is to remain in its current state unless it's required to be removed in order to facilitate trail construction. If a new fence were to be required along the east and west boundaries of the property, it's possible that a large portion of the existing trees would need to be removed for that construction. 66 residents submitted forms stating their opposition to the development prior to the meeting but did not wish to speak. 5 residents submitted forms in support of this development. There are several attachments to your staff report. I'd be happy to go over if you have any questions. But staff is recommending approval of PUD 1360-2024 and BAZ 1206-2023 per Planning Commission and staff recommendations. I'd be happy to answer the questions, and the applicant is present.
With this, about how many lots would be in there if it wasn't a PUD? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Because we're looking at 145.
Yes. put that in there somewhere. So 214 lots would be permitted if it was straight RS4 zoning. That's being reduced down to a maximum of 145 with this PUD.
And what, if it was RS3 zoning, how many would be allowed?
I don't have that calculation right in front of me.
Well, I mean, I asked,
I
let me
got lots
see,
of
I've
notes
got
here.
it.
189.
Yeah, 189, there it is,
189.
because I'd asked for it, but there it is.
Yeah, it's 189, which would be a density of approximately 5.12 units per acre.
Okay.
I know during the planning commission, so I'm assuming I'm hoping we found the answer because we didn't have it at the planning commission, but do we have any RS4s in between an RS2 and an RS1 anywhere in our city?
Yes, I provided a list through an open records request of about 18 properties that were of a similar development type to this. They weren't all specifically RS4. Some of them were RS3, RS3 that have PUDs that make the lot sizes equivalent to RS4.
Cool guy.
So is that why we're looking at a PUD? Because we don't have that zoning, we haven't approved it yet. That probably would have gone that way, is that correct? Would you agree with
Yes,
that?
if the zoning ordinance had been approved as it was previewed, this would meet the new zoning ordinance with no PUD.
Did everyone get to look at the, because I asked a ton of questions that, okay, and it all got sent, okay.
And they were good questions.
And I do know my subdivision where I live is, we're R2 and we're next to what would be now an R4. And then also there's residential, like it's residential multifamily, which I thought it was another RS4, but it's actually considered multifamily, which I didn't realize until today.
Yeah, typically if you're driving through a subdivision, you can't, most people anyway, can't identify what would be an RS4 lot versus an R1
Right.
or R2.
Yeah.
And then if this got denied, what could they do there?
Single-family residential is what's permitted by the comp plan, so there's a range of different lot sizes, ranging from about R2, RS2, all the way up to RS4, which is what your application is for right now.
So if it's not approved with the PUD, then there's gonna be more houses there, is that correct?
That is possible.
I like a PUD.
It does give us
We
control.
have control over it, we have control from now on, you know, with the trees and all that. I'm not even talking about this specific design here, I'm just talking about any. If you'll notice, most of our apartments are all underneath PUDs because we can require how much bricks on the outside, we can require how many trees, we can require things that really the code itself, the ordinance code, won't allow underneath the standard.
Yes, and that this application kind of reflects some of that. Right now, the RS4 zoning does not require any buffer between existing neighborhoods and proposed neighborhoods. So if this were a straight RS4 zoning, you would have backyards backing up to existing neighborhoods, whereas this PUD does lock in that 50-foot buffer area between to kind of provide a transition for the neighbors and for the new homeowners.
That was what I was explaining to one of the neighbors to the east, that one street through there, about the trees and the ponds and stuff that
Yeah.
you normally wouldn't see in a subdivision like that.
Yeah, our neighborhood does back it. They share. We share fences.
Yep.
So.
And this PUD does lock in, what was that, 15%, 5.7 acres of open space. That can be anything from a detention pond to a trail in that 50-foot buffer, whereas again, that would not necessarily be required by straight zoning.
How many acres you said?
5.7 approximately would be the open space.
So that would be the equivalent of 17, 18 houses then?
I know there was concern about the stub street, and obviously when when one is put in, the neighborhoods normally know that at some point a development's gonna come in and it would connect. Is there any possibility that there could be, I didn't know if we checked with fire, but we could do an emergency breakaway gate instead and do ingress and egress
I
off the
don't
front?
think there would be any, it does have to be open for emergency access for fire, just because there has to be a second point of egress from that neighborhood. So I don't know that fire would have an issue as long as it had a Knox box. However, the planning and engineering divisions would not support that. Substreets are put in for the purpose of connectivity. That's why they exist, to help neighbors get from one to the other. It's not just the neighborhood, it's, fire trucks, trash trucks, police cars, school buses,
Sure.
all of those.
Right. I think the main concern though is that it would become a through street through that neighborhood, because it would be so hard to exit that neighborhood onto 121st. They would start turning through.
Absolutely.
Well, I drove through the neighborhood back to the west, and it's kind of quite a ways till you get back to, Elm Place. So I can't imagine anybody wanting to drive through there, when they could go back to a new red light and turn on that street one way or the other.
Yeah, it could also be used as secondary access for the existing neighborhoods too. Rather than trying to turn left out of their neighborhood, they could cut through the new neighborhood,
Right.
hit the light, and be able to turn much easier.
I could see that more than going the other way.
Question about to the north, between the subdivisions and the highway. What does the comprehensive plan say there? Is it developable?
So there's very little space actually between the turnpike and this
Right.
property. The comprehensive plan does call for a frontage road along that property, and part of this plan does designate right-of-way to be dedicated. We're not going to require them to build the frontage road, as it
Okay.
would connect to nowhere.
Right.
But that right-of-way would be set aside and dedicated to the city,
Okay.
so that when that frontage road was ready to be put through, we would already have that property and not need to acquire it.
So, and I asked the question about Life Church because I was wondering if that road that goes into Life Church would ever be a public road, or if it could ever connect into the stub streets that are going to the north.
Yeah,
But I guess
it's-
not.
As of right now, it's a private street. I think there have been conversations in the past whether they wanted to dedicate that over. I know Life Church has some property on the east side of their
Right.
building that they haven't developed yet. If they were to decide to develop that street would almost have to become public in order to have public street access to
Right.
that lot to the east. So as of right now, no, it is a private street, but who knows what the future holds.
Did they donate part of their land there at the church for a service road? I was confused. I didn't realize there was any already dedicated.
I don't believe the church did. Life Church was, I don't remember what year it was platted, but it was prior to this new comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2019.
Okay.
Do we have any, well, I know you had some stuff in here regarding the schools. There's been several concerns that have been raised. Have you, I know you gave us some maps and occupancies for the schools. Have we had any direct statements from the schools regarding this one way or the other?
Mr. Schwab has spoken with the schools. I'll let him speak to that.
Yes, Council, about 3:50 today, Broken Arrow Public Schools Administration reached out to me to indicate that they're not in opposition to this development. They take a neutral stance. They have a bond package that just went through. That bond package includes, I believe, 5 elementary schools where they're putting in pods. This one does not include the pod, but with that whole process, they've already got plans in place. I'm going to speculate, this didn't come from the school, that they'll have to do some redistricting, but that's throughout the school district to fit into that new bond program. They're already in design and they're going to start pretty quickly on it.
And I did ask the question about, because when we were talking about the schools, and pretty much all of our schools in Broken Arrow are at that level where they don't have to take in transfers. So they're at that spot where, because of school choice, that you can transfer. And so I was asking about the school's being overcrowded, and I do know there's an 8th grade center that's being built right now, and that will take those 8th graders from Childers and move
Well,
them.
It's not gonna take all of them.
It's not gonna-
It's
they're-
not a complete 8th grade center.
Oh, it's not?
They're just expanding the one school there to accommodate more of them. There will still be 8th graders in all of the middle schools.
Okay, that was good to know, because that isn't,
The 8th grade
was
center
my,
wasn't.
that wasn't my
There
understanding.
was not the appropriate finances to do a full 8th grade center.
Okay, interesting. That isn't what I was told.
And that's changed recently.
Okay. So. I guess
Yeah,
we
I
can
can
just
hear if you'd like to speak
Yeah,
with
let's
them.
hear from the applicant, and then we'll hear from the.
Keep asking more questions.
Yeah.
I think we've got lots of notes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Mr. Spurgeon, staff, and everybody else. I think that covers everybody.
Good job.
My name is Megan Pasco. I work at Tanner Consulting, and we were the applicant on this rezoning application for the proposed developer, Roush Coleman Homes. Amanda did a really good job covering the basics of this property. I'm going to cover a couple more things, hand it over to Kyle Richardson with Roush Coleman, and he's going to go through a couple things as well. We also do have a presentation, if you could pull that up, and that's the same thing that's in your packet that was just handed to you guys. So as Amanda said, this is Spring Creek Crossing, approximately 37 acres. Originally, when we first started this project, the developer went and met with both the schools and the neighbors before we filed an application. Through those meetings, the two biggest concerns were traffic and safety, and those buffers between the existing residential and this development. So as Amanda mentioned, we will be doing the 50-foot buffers and a traffic light that lines up on 3rd with the main entrance to those two schools at the cost of the developer. Also, this site plan in front of you today is our site plan that we are working with, the conceptual site plan. As Amanda mentioned, we're guaranteeing a maximum of 145 lots on this property. The site plan you see in front of you today has 131 lots. I would personally like to get a few more in there, but I think it's going to go down from 131. So 131 lots is what you see on that site plan. As Amanda mentioned, it does fit within the Level 2 Urban Residential Comprehensive Plan designation. R2, RS2, RS3, RS4 are all allowed in Level 2 Urban Residential. We did some comparisons as well, looking at how this property, our proposed site plan, compares to the other properties in the area, and we feel like this is a close match to what you see to the west and south Ridge Park. That proposed site plan you just saw with 131 lots is very similar on a density level for the two developments. Overall, we feel that this property meets the comprehensive plan. As staff has said, this meets their intent of what they believe this should be, and I'm going to turn it over to Kyle Richardson to go into some more details for you guys.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Vice Mayor. Good evening, Council, and good evening, City Manager Mr. Spurgeon. My name is Kyle Richardson. I live at a little higher. I'm too tall. Okay. My name is Kyle Richardson. I live at 4111 West Orlando Place in Broken Arrow. I am the Division President for Roush Coleman Homes. So this evening I'd like to, well, I actually have a lot to share, so I'll be mindful of the shot clock here. I'd like to share a little bit about Roush Coleman. I'd like to share a little bit about our customer and why this new project is so important for Broken Arrow families. Roush Coleman has been a family-owned and operated business for almost 70 years, and we have invested in the Broken Arrow area for almost 20 years. We pride ourselves on building quality, affordable homes, and it is our mission to improve quality of life one home at a time. At Roush Coleman Homes, our homes are built to last, and we provide a comprehensive 10-year warranty for every single family that we serve. We also participate in a third-party builder survey that compares all the top builders in the country in 10 different categories, and that's what you see on the screen. It's called Avid Ratings. In 2023, Roush Coleman was #1 in every single category and retained a 94% customer satisfaction rating, which was the highest in the country. This next slide is just a great visual of the evolution of home ownership. Without that first step home, it can be very difficult for renters to make a leap to home ownership. And without the downsizer home, it can be very difficult for a retired family to maintain or afford their large family home. In fact, the economists that conducted the new Broken Arrow housing survey said that without middle density, you will see consequences for a community. And he called it the broken ladder effect, which was very similar to the picture that you see there. A little bit about our customers. So this data was pulled from 2023 of all the customers that bought in our local area from Roush Coleman. This information was provided by Avid Surveys, and in 2023, our median home buyer's age was 37 years old, with a median income of $82,000 and an average income of $94,000. Also, 63% of our home buyers did not have children, and 21% of our home buyers only had one child living in the home. This is mostly credited to new families that haven't started a family yet, and families who are downsizing that their kids have left for college or they're empty nesters. Motivation, 50% of our home buyers said they purchased our homes because of the price. It's what they could afford. 50% of the home buyers were renting before they purchased one of our homes. This is the fruit of our mission. And then 60% of the home buyers already lived in the city or area that they purchased a home in. This is really just a great side-by-side comparison. I'm sorry. Go back. This is just a great side-by-side comparison. It just kind of shows what the difference is between the buyer demographic that we had in 2023 with Roush Coleman home buyers and the information that we got from Jennifer Rush on the current demographic for the city of Broken Arrow. So this next slide is our call to action. And we borrowed this graphic from a home builder publication. So this market data and income is from a national perspective, but as you'll see, based off of the national median income and then the national median home price, you are required to have $111,000 in income to be able to afford a median home price. Just to get a little bit deeper and look at it more on a local perspective, these next two slides are real numbers that we see every single day. And with an average sales price of $225,000 for Roush Coleman homes in this area, at a 7.25 interest rate, which I think is very generous today with the way the markets have moved recently, on a 30-year FHA mortgage, you're looking at over $2,000 per month to purchase a new home. Well, what does that mean? That means that even if you make $100,000 a year, If you have liabilities around $2,900 a month, you still can't qualify to buy one of these homes. This is a slide that's specific to the Spring Creek community. So these are 4 of our most popular floor plans that we offer. And based off of the budgets that we've done, adding the traffic light, some of the things that we have done to make sure that this worked within the PUD, the best we can do is an average price of about $252,000, which would equal a monthly payment as high as $2,300 a month. This right here is just a timeline that just kind of describes the due diligence that we've done to prepare for this. So when we contracted this land in 2023, we wanted to make sure that we did everything the right way. So 7 months ago, we started this journey by meeting with city staff in October. At this meeting, we verified zoning was in conformance with the comprehensive plan, and so we moved forward. We then met with Broken Arrow Schools in December, and at this time we found out that a traffic light was very much needed for this area. And so we went back to the drawing board and we found a way. After that, we met with several concerned neighbors to better understand what was most important to them. A buffer around the community and lot size were the biggest concerns, so we asked our engineer to design a layout with a 50-foot buffer on the east and west side, and then we increased our lot size on the east side of the property where you see R1 zoning. There's also, as you saw on the conceptual, 3 ponds on the east side. We then held a community meeting in March where we received very limited questions or concerns. We provided a survey for additional feedback and received no responses. We offered a private construction tour of our homes so that we could answer any questions or concerns in regards to the quality of our homes, and there were 0 participants. Lastly, we had the Planning Commission meeting where this development was unanimously recommended for approval. And I'll close with this. I know not everyone agrees with what we build or where we build it, but our mission is to improve lives one home at a time. And that's only possible if we stay true to who we are and who we serve. It's no secret that the inventory is low and affordability is getting further and further out of reach. We want to help meet the needs for families that deserve an opportunity to own a home in Broken Arrow. The size of a home does not determine the quality of a home, and we are extremely proud of the quality we build each and every day. The price of a home does not determine the quality of the family that lives in the home. And we have some of the most incredible families that live in our communities. South Broken Arrow is not an exclusive community. Broken Arrow is a community that values everyone. Broken Arrow is where opportunity lives. An opportunity for all families and children that want to pursue a better quality of life. And I'll end with this. I know these decisions can be difficult, and they're not taken lightly. I just ask, when you consider your decision today, please consider the families that don't even know what is at stake. The families that dream of home ownership but won't make the cut if homes like ours are not available to them. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions or discussions of the applicant?
I have a question. I noticed the pictures on there, and I tried to go through the PUD to see if I could see. One of the things I look at in a home and the longevity of it are the siding on the side. And I know that we can't get in and pick that you got to build this house this way, this way, or this way. But with the PUD, we can talk about some things. So do the houses, will all these houses have brick on the outside?
So all the front elevations will have brick, and that's just because that's something that I require in my divisions. We want to make sure from the street that the aesthetics are appealing to what most cities would require or would like to see. Unfortunately, when we did the math and we factored in the traffic light, it gets really difficult to meet that median home buyer price point whenever you add full brick and require it and do all the other things like the buffer and all those things. So it gets really difficult without abandoning our customer who we serve. However, one of the things that we typically do in our communities, and you'll see this in Park Place that's not a full brick community, is there will be full brick that abuts to the main thoroughfare road. So that way, that's the billboard, right, of the city. And when people drive past it, if their house backs up to the street, they will see brick. We plan on doing something similar in this community where the houses that face 121st Street will have brick. And then obviously when you're driving across the Creek Turnpike, if there's visibility, we want to make sure that we do the same thing as well. I don't think it would be necessary where there's a buffer because there would be so much, 50 feet of trees is a lot, and I don't think anybody will even see the back of the houses.
So all of the front of them will have brick on them,
Yes,
is
sir.
that correct?
Yep, on every home. Now, under the gables, that's to the plate. Under the gables, it's really difficult to do brick everywhere, but to the plate, it'll be full brick. Yes, sir.
Now, I know I've talked to I've talked to a lot of neighbors. I walked neighborhoods and knocked doors for hours because it is in my ward and in cross street from my neighborhood. So I'll try to do my due diligence here. I know some of the concerns, and there are some homes that there's currently not trees between them and the property. And one of the questions would you guys be willing to put some trees in there?
Yeah, and so that's difficult to put in a PUD because you really need to know what the topo is. You really need to know what trees are going to stay and go. And so, we have a reputation that we've got to maintain, and we've been here for a long time, and we don't plan on going anywhere. And one of the things that I've talked with even Pastor Farnsworth about is, hey, we're not going anywhere. We'll walk hand in hand with you in this process. Because there was a lot of questions on where is fencing going to go. And I said, hey, let's walk the property once we get past this process. And let's talk about what makes sense for everyone, because it's really hard to dictate what that's going to look like right now because we're just in the zoning decision.
I've asked so many questions and that aren't here. This is all like questions that I've asked, but I can't sit here. I feel like I've gotten most of my questions answered. I will say also, I went and sat, actually Justin drove by when I was there, and he was like, why are you in my ward?
On my street.
Yeah, I was on his street, yeah. And I sat out when school got out, and because, one of my biggest concerns is the traffic, and I know the traffic light, that's an important element of this. And I just kind of wanted to see what the traffic was. And honestly, I was expecting the traffic, because I just remember sitting in traffic when my daughter was in elementary, and the traffic never stopped. And it was at pickup time. And I know some of our city staff went out there as well and sat, and it was the turn lane that we've put in that captures everybody. And there was a few that kind of went past it for just like a minute, and then but the traffic never, they kind of pulled over and the traffic just kept going straight, because they were enough over. And school got out for elementary at 4, and I think it was like 4:06, and it was like there was no traffic. I was shocked. I was literally I was expecting to be there for 30 minutes. I don't know why, but I just was. And so I know, but it did back up once you got in there. It backs up into the school, so the traffic light will be a huge thing in getting people continuing to move. So, because I went in there prepared to okay, this is what my thing is going to be if I want to vote against it, this will give me a reason to vote against it, and there wasn't anything. So, I'm trying to think of any specific questions to ask, but I think y'all have already asked them.
I have some thoughts, but I know we have a lot of people who want to speak.
Yeah,
so
let's do that.
I'd like to hear.
Because I want to hear those thoughts too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with, we have 2 in favor, We'll start with Craig Schregler. Did I say that right?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, City Manager. I live in Southwind, which is the neighborhood directly west of Southridge Park. I've lived in that neighborhood since 2009. And since 2011, I've worked for Roush Coleman Homes. And I actually work in our home office now, and I get to, I'm kind of the specifications, quality control person. You know, we audit our houses in all of our divisions, including Tulsa. And living in Tulsa, it's way easier for me to visit neighborhoods in the Tulsa area than it is in Little Rock or Kansas City or somewhere like that. Something I did want to mention about these houses. You know, the house I live in was built in 1991 in Southwind. Southridge Park, most of those houses were built in the mid-'80s, late 80s, when I was actually going to Childers Middle School right there. Those houses would not, including my house, they wouldn't meet the current building codes. You know, building codes progressively get harder to make houses safer to live in, safer for the people buying the homes. And in Tulsa, you know, our houses have to meet the 3 city inspections. But to ensure we are producing a quality product, we also have an additional 6 inspections that we pay an engineer. They come and look at all of our, they actually design the framing on our houses. They come and they inspect to make sure we built it per their specification in their stamped plan. They come in, they actually come in, they design our foundations too. You know, the city comes and does their inspection, and our engineer comes out to make sure that the foundation, all the components of the foundation are laid out exactly like the plan. After they do their framing inspection, there's an energy inspection that they do to make sure that all of our houses meet, it's not baseline energy code. Tulsa participates in the PSO and the ONG programs to produce a more energy efficient home. So we're doing all that we can to make sure that our homeowners get a quality home that's going to last. So that was really all I had.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Joe Hillenberg.
Good evening, City Council. Representing myself and as far as our family with the Hillenberg Family Trust, we believe this developer has really stepped out and done so many things to make this meaningful development for the community. We believe this as it benefits young families, including engineers, teachers, young professionals, anybody that's wanting to move into our great city. And for years, South Broken Arrow, you know, they've been working on catching up with the development under y'all's leadership as far as bringing in more businesses. That includes new restaurants, grocery stores, other essentials such as Reese's, Aldi, they come to mind. And you've got these businesses, and you're also wanting to also coincide with the relationship with having different, with consumers with attainable housing. Being in the Planning Commission meeting with Commissioner Goranson and also Commissioner Cohen, some of the highlights I picked up was attainable housing. There was no moratorium of the land use in accordance with the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan, as what I've been understanding, is like a guiding principle of the city staff, which it started with them, and also with the Planning Commission. And that includes the rezoning. I saw on page 77 there was the land use intensity, which I read up out on the level 2, and which can also allow the RS4. So a lot of these things have been, everyone did their due diligence. Everybody from the planning to the Planning Commission, the meeting, to our developer. The other thing, though, with Mr. Spurgeon and Ms. Schwab, I was looking at this traffic report, and I just wrote some highlights on that. I wanted to finish real quickly. But in light of the fact that the City of Broken Arrow's Planning Commission unanimously recommended for approval a residential development, the city decided to gather evidence based upon actual field observations to provide more definitive information for the governing body. In fact, they were under a tornado watch when this took place. But this was at Childers Middle School and also Spring Creek. The staff at Childers Middle School informed us that their operations truly work well. Vehicles enter and exit to the northern drive only. In addition, school officials indicated the line generally moves through the cycle in less than 5 minutes. Operations very similar to Spring Creek. The thing that really caught my attention was CMS Childers Middle School. They let out at 3:20 p.m., which Vice Mayor Gillespie, this kind of goes with your observation from the other day. So at 3:20 p.m. on this particular outing, by 3:33 p.m. the entire congestion was alleviated and operations were essentially complete. That's 13 minutes. That's pretty good. Very similar with what I saw with Spring Creek Elementary as well. Conclusions that I saw, they're on page 6, 5. Staff concludes that signalized intersection will help immensely with delays experienced with the traffic along the 3rd Street, especially northbound traffic trying to make a left-hand turn head westbound. This all creates an all-stop condition, which is not the situation today. That concludes what I have to say. Thank you.
All right. So we've got, looks like 5 or 6 signed up to speak in opposition, and then we have 91 or 101 now that signed to not speak but are in opposition. Ryan Kroll.
Didn't expect to be first.
Joe, we put you to the back.
I'm sorry, I'm at 6109 South First Place, Broken Arrow. And I actually have something that I'd like to turn over to the council, and thank you all for being here tonight. I apologize. A little less than organized at the moment. This is a petition. I know it's unofficial, but it's signed by those in my neighborhood. And I'll outline what it is that's being listed in here. So once again, I know, unofficial, not turned in time, all of those types of things. But essentially what it says, and I'm not going to reiterate a lot of the things you've already heard. I'm not going to sit here and tell you all the reasons why I would be against this PUD, or all the reasons why the rest of the community might be. What it does state is that we are still against it, but if it were to be approved tonight, there were a few considerations we would like to be included in the PUD. One of them being, Ms. Wimpy, what you had recommended earlier, a crash gate or a gate on the substreet between the new community and my existing community. So the reason for that is mainly safety. A lot of kids are, including mine, travel that street daily. They go to school. They actually play in that little cul-de-sac down there on West San Diego Street. A lot of different reasons, and quite honestly, I understand what, I think it was you, Mr. Parks, that had said this, that there's quite a long distance to drive through that community to get to the other side. Unfortunately, that's not actually the case. If you lived in the community, you would see that with this new community proposed, that substreet makes it a very convenient way to exit out on West San Diego and take a right onto 121st. If I lived in the new community, that's exactly what I would do. I would avoid the stoplight, I would avoid waiting 3 minutes for it to turn green, and I would take that little side street. That is my biggest concern. Again, I have children that play in this neighborhood. They play on that corner. As much as I talk to them, they are not smart. They run into the middle of the street. They leave their bikes there. Stuff that the community has come to know is going to be there, but adding 300 more cars potentially traveling that at any point in time, that's an issue. And so we ask that if it were to be approved, that that gate be added. Secondly, if it were to be approved, we understand that construction can cause some destruction of the environment. That's fine. We understand that that's just progress and change. But if trees were to be torn out or for the existing open spaces, we would ask that trees be replaced, that any open space have new fresh vegetation, specifically trees, evergreen and deciduous, to be planted in that area to grow back up, to provide beauty to both sides. And then last thing would be fencing. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So then your group's concern would be that they don't want to make sure their subdivision doesn't go through to that new red light. Is that correct?
That is our biggest safety concern at the moment. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I was looking at it from people there trying
Are
to
we-
get away from the school
No,
traffic
that is what he's
going
saying.
through your subdivision.
No, I apologize. I just misunderstood your question. No, our biggest concern is that people from the new development would avoid the stoplight, and in turn they would take this stub street through our neighborhood and exit onto Tucson, which you would take West San Diego to get there. Because you would essentially circumvent traffic that's backed up at the red light, or you would avoid a 3-minute wait. And so you can take the path of least resistance. People are pretty smart. So
Okay, and go back out on San Diego.
Yeah.
yes, they would take the sub street to San Diego and then exit right on Tucson most likely.
Okay, I understand.
Yes, sir.
I could see people that live right there doing that, but not necessarily the people that live closer to the
Well, if you
front.
look back at the plan, I don't believe that it would be people that live just in that area. I believe that you would find that probably at least the top half, as well as those on the west side, would choose that versus traveling all the way to 121st through their own division. That's just my take. Anybody that's on that top section of Relay, essentially,
Okay.
or
I see
those
what
that
you're
are even
saying.
below it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm a pretty defensive driver. I would much rather use the light and be protected. That's just me personally.
Well, I'm glad for you because I don't feel like most people are.
That's what I would do. I would definitely use the light.
So,
Yeah, I would.
are there
I
any
would probably
questions
cut
I can
through.
You'd
answer?
probably cut through.
So, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Dustin Fletcher.
Good evening, Dustin Fletcher, 6308 South 5th Street, Broken Arrow. You're looking for a reason tonight on why to vote against this. I'm going to use the words that the chairperson of the Planning Commission exactly used. Does not fit. Exact words, does not fit. This is the third development that has came through within the past year. The first development was for an R3 and RD. Lot size, 7,000 square foot lot sizes. Denied. Second time, by the same developer, R4, 6,500 square feet lot sizes. Denied again. Matter of fact, after that second denial, the landowner did come here to confront the Planning Commission in the exact words to the landowner. Sir, we just didn't feel it fit. It's plain and simple. What's being proposed now is an R4 with variances 5,000 square foot. So we've denied a 7,000 square foot. We've denied a 6,500 square foot. Now we're going to approve a 5,000 square foot? Let's go back to the comprehensive plan, because that comprehensive plan is outstanding. It is a guidance. Character and scale, it doesn't fit. Plain and simple. Thank you for widening the roads. We were quite, because after that second development, it got denied. That's when we saw the city come in and widen. That was perfect. I don't know who was in charge of that. We were kind of shocked that nobody reached out and just said, hey, how's it, did that help? But thank you. That was a big, huge difference. However, we still got a major issue. Character and scale. If you guys approve this, you're setting the tone throughout this entire community that anybody could come in and build any type of existing development into any existing neighborhood. Now, you're right. I mean, so much has been exposed over this, let's be honest. Because what's been exposed is that when Kyle called me and said, hey, this does fit under the new city ordinances. Well, yeah, they found a way. Sure, they found a way. Because they said we can't use the comprehensive plan no more to come up here. That's a big problem for the citizens of Broken Arrow. We can all have disagreements, but don't change the rules. Don't change the rules that we can't come up here and use the comprehensive plan to defend our property. So, plain and simple, this doesn't fit. Thank you for your time.
You know, I think this fits the comprehensive plan, and I didn't hear Mr. Gordonson what he said, but I think the fit goes in to the first time it was 280 homes. The second one was 199 homes, and now it's 145 homes. I think, just guessing, maybe he's looking at the number of homes. That
Jay
would fit
Lee's
in
the-
there.
Oh, Jay Lee was, I think, the one.
She's the chair.
Right.
Jay Lee said it, not
Oh,
Bob,
Jay
is
Lee's-
what we're saying, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm-
Jay Lee
I'm
said it.
assuming, I don't
The
know if
chairman
that's
said
true.
that.
She's
But
the
I'm
chair,
I don't
so.
know that was the case, but it does fit the comp plan. In fact, all of these probably fit the comp plan.
And I appreciate you. I heard that you came out to our neighborhood, so I appreciate you coming out and asking some neighbors. So my question to you right now with that, so if you look at that diagram, which I think you're looking, so if you look at the right to that, what is the square footage on those lots?
You talking about the houses to the right?
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't know. They're big homes.
Okay.
I went through and looked at all of them.
So that would be.
But that
10
doesn't mean that we build the same size homes
Hold
on this one.
Yeah, I'm just saying, 10,000 square foot, because it opened my eyes, honestly. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not trying to argue with you. It did open my eyes about this, because when you look at that, that's 10,000 square foot lots. So the one all the way to the other side, do you know what the square footage lots on that is? Okay. Square footage lots on that is going to be an R2, which is 8,000 square foot lots. So that's where it's like, that doesn't fit. And that doesn't go by that comprehensive plan. Because in that comprehensive plan, it says it has to fit within character and scale. Trust me, I've learned a lot about R1, R2, R3, R4s, all of them. But when you look at it and you start looking at lot sizes, yeah, absolutely that doesn't fit. Now, yeah, has traffic been better? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it still does not fit, and that is what the Planning Commission, the chairperson, exact words was. Now, they all have different opinions, I get that, but it was unanimous votes on the two first votes to go around. So that's the whole defense here is, you know, let's fit within the characteristics around, you know, the surrounding area. So, but I do appreciate you coming out. Justin, I appreciate everything that you do in representing us. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Brad Farnsworth.
So Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, once again, City Manager Spurgeon. My name is Brad Farnsworth, and I live in Southridge Park. First of all, just thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. Honestly, this is what I love about our country. We can come together and we can have a debate about our concerns and the issues we have, and we can do it in a really civil manner. I love that about this process. I'm especially thankful and want to publicly recognize the people who have stood up for our children, our schools, and our city over this past year. This is our fourth time to come before here at City Hall. It's been a haul for everybody, but what I've gotten to know over the last year is our citizens. And these are good, hardworking people, and I'm really honored to just stand with them. So I got involved in this because I was concerned about the safety of our children and the residents in our community. You saw Ryan Krall speak to even our neighborhood and our concerns that you have before you as well. I've also been involved because I've been concerned about the education of our children and the overcrowding of this school and all of our schools. Because overcrowding of schools is going to adversely affect the education of our children, which will affect the future of Broken Arrow. And we have to consider that when we're doing something like this. So tonight, your decision is going to affect the future of Broken Arrow. It's not just about this development. It is about all future developments, as you've already heard, about setting a precedence. But it's also going to affect the development of impressionable minds, the children in our community and their education. So I just want to encourage you to look deep inside. Like, what do you think is best for Broken Arrow? What do you think is the right thing to do for the future of Broken Arrow? I want to encourage you to vote your convictions and your conscience. By doing that, it may cost you something. Your yes might cost you, and your no might cost you. But you all got in this because you care about people. And you love this city. You wouldn't do this if you did not love this city. And you want to see this city and these citizens thrive. You represent us, the people, and we are putting our trust in you, and we're counting on you. I want you to know I believe in this council. I believe in our city's leadership. And I believe that tonight, you're going to vote for a safer and better Broken Arrow. Thank you.
I wanted to ask about, just before we move on, about the, about not being able to use our comprehensive plan, about that comment, because I wanted to, who can address that?
If I may, Council?
Yeah.
So there is some language in the preview ordinance that was tabled tonight
Okay,
that we're going to address in the next 30 to 60 days.
okay,
And that language is right at the top that we need to address it and make sure that it's clear. So with respect to tonight's issue, that really is not on the table.
Right.
Because it's still under the current zoning
Okay.
and the current
Okay, I just
comprehensive
wanted to
plan
make sure, 'cause
and
I was
everything, the PUD that's in front of you. So that should be 30 to 60 days. And through this process, the citizens have raised a handful of questions that we need to make sure that we address.
yeah, that was one of the things that we had
Yes,
discussed.
correct.
That was a question that, okay, I wanted to make sure, because we need to address that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to let our people be able to use, yeah.
Okay, Molly Lyons. No? Yes, no? No, no. That was in opposition. Rachel Fletcher. You can bring that down, yeah, okay.
My name is Rachel Fletcher, and I live at 6308 South 5th Street. First and foremost, I just want to thank you guys. I've reached out to multiple people, I've talked to you, and I just want to thank you for your time in addressing our concerns, because this is a very passionate subject in the area. Now, in front of you tonight is an R4 with a PUD. But the problem I'm seeing is this just isn't an R4. It's an R4 with variances. The variances allow a shrunken lot size from a typical R4, the smallest allowable size underneath our comprehensive plan on a level 2. A 6,500 square foot lot by 55 feet. And what's being presented to you tonight is a 5,000 square foot lot by 50. We're shrinking the lot size. Why that's important to me is because in 2016, the R4 was created as a solution. We had had multiple properties with an R3 with variances. The lot sizes were shrinking. And so we came up with the R4 for certain areas. And there's guidelines about when we do an infill property, a property that is amongst existing property, existing surrounding neighborhoods. And underneath our current zoning, 2.3A3, it says we are to protect the scale and character of existing residential neighborhoods and community character. It goes on further, later on underneath development standards, underneath 5.1A2, and it defines again, we are to protect and enhance residential neighborhoods, commercial districts, and other areas by encouraging physical development that is of high quality and is compatible with the character, the scale, and the function of its surrounding areas. Why this is important to me is because underneath the comprehensive plan, underneath the level 2 land use intensity, it is considered the predominant character of the urbanization of homes in Broken Arrow, the predominant character of homes. And my concern is, if we've already approved R3s with variances and had to come up with the R4, now we have an R4 being presented to you with variances. Are we setting the new predominant character in Broken Arrow to be increasingly shrunken lots? Matter of fact, this is based off of a residential compact, not even the top tier on the new ordinances that has been shown. It is the second level. And if I had to guess, the reason for that is on 2 different PUDs now, I have seen 3 different retention ponds in the same exact spots. And the first developer actually submitted a PUD that showed the topographic, and it all runs into my backyard, which is fine. That'll be fixed with retention ponds. But because of that, the developers have seen that they have an issue. The issue is that part of their land has to be used for the retention of water. So what is happening is, because if they go underneath the new ordinances, underneath the new PUD, community space doesn't matter anymore, because what they're going to consider that is underneath green belts, green spaces, and water retention. That is why this works for the developer, but it does not work for the existing surrounding neighborhoods. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Brian Myers.
Thank you, Mayor, Assistant Mayor, City Council, Mr. Spurgeon. There's been a lot of talk about fit and scale, and that's kind of my concern as well. The fit and scale issue directly reflects the size of the home, which directly reflects on the surrounding home's property value, which I understand that the current property owner of the lot wants to get the most out of the lot and is trying to get a developer to work and make as most revenue off the lot. Hey, it's a great country. We can do those things. We can make as much money as we want. But as a planning committee and city council, I ask that we do not just look at the interests of one party, but all parties, and that includes all the neighbors and all of the property values. I want to sell my lot at some point and my home, and I'm not going to come to the city council and have it rezoned so I can put an apartment complex in my property, which I know I can't, but as a ridiculous example, so I can make the most money. I'm not saying that's happening, and I'm not besmirching the builder or anything to that nature. My concern is for my neighbors. And the concern is that the neighbors' property values, I mean, we're looking at comps here. Comps are what make property values work in this society. It's not fair. It's not what it's supposed to be, but that's what it is. And that's going to impact everybody's property value. And I understand people need affordable housing. This is an unaffordable time that we're living in. So it's a tough call, and I appreciate you guys for making it. So, good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Could I ask another question?
Yeah, you can ask as many questions
Okay.
as you like.
And this is probably an Amanda question. So, on the new zoning, because this is basically a copy of that. We require, when you do the compact, we require more green space. Is the green space here only accomplished because of a detention?
Not only, no. It is correct, there's a good chance that a portion of this would be required for stormwater detention, as most single-family residentials do
Right.
require some
Right.
detention. The new zoning ordinance So if you actually look at the densities between the current zoning ordinance and the proposed ordinance that you guys have not approved yet,
Right.
the actual densities, dwelling units per acre are not that different from what you have right now. The difference is you're trading smaller lot sizes for more green space. So we are preserving green space in that respect and giving more amenities to those types of neighborhoods. Yes, they have a smaller lot, which made, smaller side yards, smaller front setbacks, rear setbacks, all of those sorts of things. So it's a give and take.
Is this going to be retention or detention?
That will be determined during the engineering phase.
We do detention.
Okay, so this is.
I mean, that doesn't mean that they couldn't have what's called wet detention and
Right.
the bottom 6 feet water. That's up to them.
Okay.
And I will comment, I made a note when Mr. Kroll was speaking. If you require trees in open spaces, just be aware that if open spaces are required for detention, we will not allow trees in those types of places because that can disrupt the water flow.
Right.
If I may, Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
since we just had some discussion on detention, these subdivisions that are surrounding this area, which would be South Ridge Park, Southwind to the west, even South Park, Saddleback, all of these were built, I'm going to say probably early 80s or so. South Park was actually before that. That was all before we had detention ordinances. None of these subdivisions have detention in them today.
Right.
This would be, to my knowledge, the first one, unless you go all the way out Tucson to where Tucson Village is.
Well, I'm suspecting, just because I love talking about drainage, that these going in created all the water issues that are on this property now, probably, it seems like.
I can't say that because they may be on a hill. I kind of think they're on a hill, but there's definitely going to be some challenges for the owner and the engineer, but they'll have to address that.
Yeah.
It does mean that somebody has to detain it downstream
Right.
from them. So the city's gonna have to provide, or had to provide it, or another developer had to provide it. You know what I mean? Somewhere it's gotta be detained.
Unless they were built prior to the ordinances and then the flows went up back in the 80s.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just going through a lot of these 101, and there's several teachers. I didn't realize that. There's several teachers from the schools that were in opposition.
Interesting.
Yeah. I am curious, on the first couple that were denied, because of it not seeming to fit in that area, why all of a sudden the planning commission decided that it did fit, and then why the city is recommending something that has been denied over and over again.
All right, so there were several comments to that respect, so I did put together, council, you've been provided a copy of it, a comparison of the 3 different projects that have come before you. So the first, as was previously stated, was a duplex type development that proposed a maximum of 199 lots with a density of 5.3 units per acre. That was denied due to the duplex nature of the development. Traffic was also a concern. The developer at that time had also committed to a traffic light within their PUD and some landscaping buffers, but those buffers were about 22 feet in width. So that was denied almost a year ago today. The second application came forward was straight RS4 zoning. That had a maximum of 214 lots with a density of 5.5 units per acre, which was actually a little bit higher than the previous application for duplex. So as we're moving down, this new application proposes the lowest density and lowest number of lots yet, with a maximum of 145 with a density of 3.91 acres. So the density of this development is significantly less than what has been proposed previously. So as these applications come forward, the number of units and the density per acre has decreased. Also with this development, the developer is proposing 50-foot landscape buffers and committing to a 15% open space, whereas that was not committed to in the RS4 or the RD application. Let's see. Oh, lot sizes, somebody mentioned that 7,000 square feet was proposed for the duplex development. That was for a duplex unit. Each individual duplex would have a lot area of 4,000 square feet. So it is still significantly smaller when you look at what the lot for each actual unit would be. So 7,000 square feet is not quite accurate in what the unit itself would have. And then the straight RS4 zoning, again, the lot sizes were bigger, yes, but the density is less in this proposal with the PUD, and more meaningful open spaces being dedicated. So that's the differences between the three applications.
And if you look at the memo that I got from the city, if you looked at a R2 zoning in that same area, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're looking at a R2, it would be straight zoning, which it would develop without a PUD. It would be, the lot size would be 8,000 square feet, but there would be 165 homes. You would get the square footage in the yards because you're going to 8,000 unless green space or trails was the way that we were looking at it.
That's correct. If there was straight zoning, none of the buffering would be required.
So, right.
But could you fit 165 with the drainage issues that are on that property?
That would be a
We wouldn't have a
maximum,
drain.
just based on pure calculation wise. That would be the maximum that would be allowed by the zoning district.
But at 8,000
165.
square feet? A lot?
If you're just
R2.
doing basic,
Well, that's what I'm saying, like physically, could that, it doesn't seem like that makes sense.
chances are it would not max out.
But that also wouldn't include a 50-foot
Correct.
easement on each side.
Right. So, you know, you would lose some for your drainage, but you would also be gaining for the 50-foot. There's give and takes in all of this. Also, if we went straight zoning, we would have no mechanism to require the developer to install a traffic light or provide any additional right-of-way. We could make them stub into the Creek Turnpike right-of-way, but we could not require any dedication of property there for a future frontage road. So the PUD does give you the option to require things that are different. PUDs are give and take. So yes, you're reducing the lot size, but you're restricting the number of lots. You're providing buffers. You're providing future right-of-way for future roadway expansions with the city. So
But you have bigger lots and more of them.
if you did the RS
Well,
or three.
you physically could not put a maximum with 8,000 square foot lots if that was R2. You couldn't put 165, because they can't put 131 with 5,000 square foot lots.
No.
With streets.
For example,
I know, but they're
the straight
using
RS4, they were
the,
proposing.
50 foot on each side, you know what I
But
mean?
still.
That included
Yeah.
in it also.
Right.
So
If you
that
added in that 50
calculation is
feet.
based on purely lot area, land area
Right.
versus a number per lot. So it's not taking into account your streets, your stormwater, any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So you are correct, there's.
So if it was straight
Most likely
R2,
they
it'd
would
be
not get
under
that.
100
Right,
homes.
they
That
would not
probably
get that maximum.
I will say, I reached out to numerous developers that build R2 homes and R1 homes. And what they said to me was, this is not where they would build now. I mean, this is not, I mean, and it was just, I mean, I'm just being honest, because I was like, I'm trying to like figure this out. I'm trying to like,
And I will
and
say,
it's because they didn't want to live across from a middle school and an elementary. That is what they told me. That's not what their home buyers wanted.
right, and I will say from the planning side, we try not to conflate like R2 type homes. There's no such thing as an R2 type home. There's single
Right,
family
I
homes,
know.
there's multifamily.
It
So
sounds very
just keep that in
snobbish.
mind. No, no, it's
Doesn't
just, when we're talking about zoning, we're specifically talking about lot sizes, frontages, those types of things. We don't take into account, we're not allowed to take into account home prices,
Right.
square footage, all of those types of things.
But usually if you buy a bigger lot, you're gonna build a bigger house on it. You know,
Right.
Normally.
Maybe.
So I think there'd be bigger
Well-
houses if you could get them to buy those houses.
We also see a lot of, in Broken Arrow, smaller lots, there are quite large houses on them, people just don't want the yard maintenance. So we have some developments here in Broken Arrow that have 1 foot side yards, for example, which isn't enough to get your mower down. but people don't want that kind of maintenance. So it kind of depends on the market you're looking at and who your buyers are and your developers.
I believe our new ordinance too, if I remember correctly, is going to have some different size homes in the same subdivision some places. In other words, different size lots in the same subdivision.
So that's technically allowed now. Just because you zone a property RS4 doesn't mean you have to commit to those minimum lot sizes. We have several developments. I think one.
Yeah, Villages of Birchwood is like that, next to my subdivision.
Yeah, they're actually technically estate-sized lots, but the way some of the wedge-shaped lots are created, the frontage for those lots are less, so they'll ask for a smaller zoning district. But all in all, they end up creating larger lots. I'm not saying that is the plan with this. It's not. But just because you see RS4 doesn't always mean that they're developed as RS4.
Well, I think that's
It's a
our
minimum
new
requirement.
ordinance. It does have a difference, you know, what it means in some subdivisions on the
Yeah,
lot
it can
size.
allow for variances between, within the same subdivision. Any other questions for me?
Not right now, not yet.
Kyle, do you mind coming back up real quick? So one of the people who spoke had some suggestions. Are any of those something that you guys would be considering?
At this stage, it's really difficult, and typically this is just a land use zoning decision that we don't spend 6-7 months preparing for, so we don't have to come back 2 or 3 times. And so I actually met with Ryan in person. Crashgate wasn't mentioned, and so it wasn't something that we budgeted for, something that we've even looked at. I will say this, we're really towing the line right now in terms of being able to appeal to our buyer and be able to make homes obtainable. I don't think we can use the word affordable anymore, but obtainable now in Broken Arrow with the median income and what these houses we priced at. So the more we add, the more difficult that makes it, and it may not make sense anymore. So I don't have the answer because I don't know what a crash gate costs. And because we're just in the zoning stage, it's really hard to determine where fencing is needed because of the topo and what trees are going to be removed, where they would need to be replaced. So I'm not going anywhere. I've been born and raised here. They can find me. I live not far from here. I'm more than happy to walk the property and try to figure out a way for everybody to win. So,
Well, I'm sure you clearly understand we're not making a decision based on if you can sell a home, right? Like, we're making a decision based on what's best for our city overall. Like, you
absolutely,
understand that,
absolutely.
right?
And at the end of the day, I know a lot of this stuff isn't relevant to land use and zoning, but there's a lot of things that the opposition that's bringing up too that has no relevance to zoning and land use. It should not be based off a lot of the emotional things that we have to talk about, but it's just the world we live in today. So.
Well, and that is a good point, because normally when we talk zoning, we like don't talk about this stuff at all. We just talk about the zone. I mean, we try to ask questions, but then we're always told this is about a zoning change, not a PUD. So we are really, this is very different than normal.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we want to be able to understand at the very beginning, before we invest the time and the money into a community, does it fit within the comprehensive plan? And if the answer is yes, we should be able to move forward without a whole lot of opposition, because it is just a land use decision or zoning decision. Because at the end of the day, it gets really difficult. Investors and builders have to trust the comprehensive plan. And we've been told by city staff, and it's been recommended by Planning Commission, that it does fit that comprehensive plan.
Well, if it's just a regular zoning too, they wouldn't be able usually to save the trees. Like in this particular PUD, we're able to save at least that 50 foot on each side, and then maybe select the tree, especially along that main arterial street there, 121st, save some of those trees. A lot of times they just go in and they strip it all, you know what I mean, and then come back and let the homeowner plant the tree. So that's one of the reasons I like the PUD.
It's been a very difficult process for me personally, again, because I'm invested, because I live out there. I've talked with the neighbors, and I feel it's our job to weigh what's best for the city, what's best for the citizens, and then on the other side of the coin, I also feel like it's not the government's job to tell an individual what he can or can't do with his property. So I don't want somebody telling him if I can or can't sell my property. But there's a lot that goes into this, and I know personally I've had a lot of sleepless nights, and spent a lot of time in prayer over this. And usually I'm all smiles, but you probably haven't seen a lot of that tonight, because it's just an agonizing decision, and we're going to do our best to do what we can in this situation.
I took a lot of notes while the neighbors were speaking. I can answer some of those questions, but also staff has done an amazing job in answering all of your questions tonight. I probably haven't earned my paycheck. They probably didn't even need me. Staff has done such a great job. So if you have any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I do want to say thank you to Mr. Schwab and Mr. Hinkle for going out and doing that traffic analysis after the Planning Commission meeting. That was really helpful for us to see what was out there. So if you have any
I did
more,
my own private traffic analysis.
I appreciate that too. So if you guys have any more questions, I have some answers to some of the questions the neighbors have, but just if you guys want to talk about it, or if you have any more questions, or I can go sit back down. So you guys tell me.
I'm wondering, like the stoplight, it sounds, since we put the side street in, that really cut down on the issues that we were having there.
That cuts down the issues going in, but not coming out.
Not coming out.
Okay, I was gonna say,
I
is
do
that
that
something
every
we?
day.
Okay.
But you are correct. The stacking, you can stack. So Spring Creek Elementary does an incredible job. Shout out to the principal, Ms. Troutman. She has put a lot of effort into this. She has split her pickup, if you will, end-of-day pickup into two groups. Kindergarten through second grade is down on the south end, and then third grade through fifth is on the north end, and then of course you got bus riders on up even further into the gymnasium. But the younger pickup can stack 35 cars before they cause a problem with east-west bound traffic along Tucson. And now that Rocky and the street team went in August and built the dedicated right turn lane, the older kids can stack up to 45 vehicles before you're starting to get a problem with Tucson. That's a total of 80 vehicles. That's a huge difference. Talking to the principal and talking to even the middle school across the street, they said that made a world of difference. So to Councilor Green's point, getting out's the problem. Northbound traffic of either school trying to get out and make a left, it's a stop controlled intersection. A signal would now change that. It's called platooning. So when it goes to all stop, it can turn and give you a green for the northbound traffic. You can hold that green for 30 or 45 seconds, and you can run 30 vehicles out at a time. So you can actually clear it out a lot easier. And it's actually safer. There has been some confusion about something I said in Planning Commission. So if I may, Mayor, I'd like to clarify that. I've been working with Derek Blackburn at the Broken Arrow Public Schools on the crossing guards for about 2 to 3 years. Originally, years ago, they crossed west of, right there at about First Street, and then it got moved even further to the west. It's only about 22 to 24 feet wide in that area. If you get into the drive, it's almost 30 feet wide. That's only 2 lanes of traffic. It's just off of your screen up there to your, I guess that would be to your right, to my left. It's just off the screen. So the crossing guard has to step out into public right-of-way and stop oncoming traffic. There's no signal on any of this. So at Tucson, where they're crossing again today, and where they originally crossed, it's only 24 feet wide, so there's only 2 lanes of traffic. So that crossing guard's looking to the left, looking to the right, whichever, making sure eye contact, stopping the traffic, and then getting the kids safely across the street. 24 feet, generally assumed about 3 feet per second, takes 8 seconds to get across, it's pretty quick. Talking to Mr. Blackburn, years ago, they moved it to 3rd Street because if you look over to the right and to the north and just to the east of the subdivision or the property in question, you see 8-10 lots there. That went in years ago, but then those kids had to walk along a path, it wasn't even sidewalk years ago, and where are they going to cross the street? Originally, they had to come all the way down and come back. That didn't work, so the school moved it to 3rd Street. Well, now you're crossing at about 67 feet. Now that crossing guard got to step out and stop 6 turning movements, oncoming traffic in 6 different movements. Very dangerous, very difficult. Putting the crossing guard in harm's way, people don't see. So Mr. Blackburn asked me about 2-3 years ago, is there anything we can do? We moved it back to the west, where it is today, and then we moved it right down there near that subdivision. We just put one of those crossing in this probably August. So there's 2 crossing. They only man 1. If a signal goes in, there's something called all stop. All directions come to a complete stop when that ped head is pushed. Now that crossing guard isn't out there picking each 6 different movements, making eye contact, walking across. The school would be more than happy to move it back to the signal. It's safer at that point in time. There was some confusion in the Planning Commission that I had said something contradictory. But right now, today, crossing at 3rd Street is not safer. There's no signal. If you put a signal there, it is safer. So that's the difference. May I ask one question?
Sure.
During your presentation, did you say 131 lots?
131 lots is what is shown on the conceptual site plan. 145 is the guaranteed maximum.
Okay. I was thinking that it got amended.
One other clarification I would like to make, just so you all are aware, is Ms. Klempa, the chair of the Planning Commission, she was absent at the Planning Commission meeting for this item. We did receive 4 recommendations for approval at Planning Commission. So any comments from Ms. Klempa regarding this project would not be about this application, it would be about a previous application.
Which I was going to say that because I'm like, I watched the Planning Commission and she wasn't there. So, okay, I figured it must have been a previous. Sorry, I'm reading comprehensive plan.
Well, I'm going to take this moment while you're reading the comprehensive plan. I used to serve on the Union School Board, and when you're a school board member, you think about what's best for the schools. Now my role as city councilor, I need to think about what's best for our city. I do go for the comp plan most of the time. In fact, I think I've only voted against it 1 time. So that's very, very important to me because before my time, the counselors spent a lot of time, money, effort, as far as staff as well. I do like the idea of the PUD now because then we do have some control over what is going to happen in the neighborhood, where if we wait and don't have a PUD, it sounds like there's a lot of things that they want that the builder doesn't have to provide. We did do a citizen survey that we did talk about in length before this meeting. And on that citizen survey, it says this development is exactly what our city is missing. And that's from the citizens. The citizens are saying, we need this. We also spent a lot of money as a city doing a housing survey. The housing survey also said, we need more developments like this. As I look through the stack of people that don't want it and the people out in the audience, a big portion of these people I consider my friends. I don't know why I've never been invited to your block party because I know a lot of you in that neighborhood. So it is a hard decision, but we have to make the decision for the city and what's best for the city. And it sounds like to me that the current developer is bending over backwards to try to work it out with everybody around. So I just want to say that.
I think the thing that I would add is just when you go back, not looking at what the ordinance could be, because I don't feel that's best for our city. I'm just going to put that out there. But the current comprehensive plan, when you when it says multiple times, does it fit the character and scale of that area? That's where I get a little stuck sometimes, because clearly it doesn't, as far as the look and the feel of what is surrounding it. So,
Whenever we look, so when I think about character I'm thinking about the outside, because it's kind of like, you never know what the inside of my house looks like, but boy, I have good landscaping. And I make sure, I might have a dump on the inside of my house. Right now, dude, it's bad. Like, it's not a dump, but
But your grass is mowed and your flowers look good.
But my flowers look great, if y'all have seen my Facebook post. So I want to make sure that the outside of, like, the entrance into the neighborhood is, obviously, if there's very elaborate landscaping other places, but, masonry landscaping on the outside of the subdivision, that is what would be really important to me to keep it, because I think about, like, my 24-year-old daughter. She was able to buy a house because her parents were able to buy a fixer-upper and help her fix it up and buy it. But if that hadn't happened, and so she got a great deal because of that. If that had not happened, she'd still be living in an apartment, because she wouldn't be, and even these houses, she wouldn't be able to afford. And that is, I just want to make sure, because Broken Arrow, if you look at our demographic is, it's pretty old. If you look, and I'm in that demographic. And so I want to make sure that we're offering choices for everyone that's affordable. And this, to me, isn't even, like, it's crazy to me that it's affordable. Because it's really, I look back at my first house that I bought, and it's insane. The house that I'm in now cost basically what these houses are gonna sell for. So, and I get, anytime, it's scary when something's going in next to you, because we're very emotional about our property and our homes. That is our biggest investment, and it's emotional for me, and because none of us want people to be mad at us. That's the honest truth. But we're gonna have to make a decision that some people aren't gonna be happy one way or the other. So, and that's why we get paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
To do this.
Wait, you're getting paid?
Yeah, yeah.
We have our own clean drinking water tanks too, by the way.
Yes, yeah. That's why we get our $80 a month phone stipend. So, so it's, this is very difficult. And
I do think that, obviously, Roush Coleman has done they are bending over backwards to try to address all of the main issues. That is one thing that needs to be clearly pointed out, because it could be quite different without a PUD.
And I did walk into one of their houses. It was a model home. I've never owned a brand new home. Every house I've lived in, someone else has already built it. But I thought it was a beautiful home. And when he said it was not a start, we don't call it starter homes, whatever, your first home. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, my first home was like half this size and one bathroom, and but I had a big yard because I lived at Admiral and Sheridan in Tulsa. But I'm just like, you're calling this a starter home? I would not call that. Plus, my first house I had to pay 18% interest because it was in 1980. So I'm just like, it blows my mind. I don't know how young families can afford this house. Right now. It doesn't seem affordable to me. But I thought the quality of the house. I'm not a builder. I'm not an inspector. But I thought what I saw was beautiful and very updated, well put together. I would live there if I could afford it. I can't at $80 a month.
One of the things that I noticed in looking through this and all the years on the council and the planning commission is that how close that northern part of is to the turnpike.
Yeah.
And normally that would call for a buffer which would be duplexes or apartments on the north side of that. If you notice across the expressway over there, that purple, I believe, is industrial. And then the other is that orange is a buffer. So on the comp plan, it does call for a buffer on the other side of the turnpike. That's why I was surprised that there was going to be an access road, because the comp plan didn't call for a buffer there. So I think you got trees, that's going to be a buffer. I'm not saying we need to add something. I'm just saying the comp plan normally along the turnpike or the Broken Expressway, and I live right beside the Broken Expressway, you're going to have some type of buffer between the houses, the R2, R3 houses, and then the turnpike or the VA Expressway, whichever it is. So this is going to be able to build right up to that, but I know there's going to be a buffer there with trees, which does help a lot. I can tell you from experience, in the wintertime, the trees aren't near as good about killing the sound of the expressway or the turnpike because the leaves are gone. So it's really a lot noisier then. So that is something that the comp plan really usually provides. It's not provided in this.
Anybody else? Any other discussion or questions or?
I'll make a motion to approve PUD 001360-2024 and BAZ 00120606-2023, the rezoning of Spring Creek Crossing 38 acres.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
And y'all, I'm just gonna say, I'm voting yes, and I want you to know that we will make sure that the PUD is followed, and we'll also take into consideration the requests that have been made. I'll make sure that those are things that we at least see if there's anything that can be done with those things. So I'm sorry some people are gonna be unhappy, but
I will say, my vote is not a referendum on the development, the developer, the property owner. My vote is as a representative of Ward 4 and well, I know I'm elected by the entire city, but the people I am scheduled to represent.
I made it easy for him because I said I was voting yes.
The motion does pass.
My stomach hurts. I need a break. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Right. Yeah. I can't think about the politics. I just have to vote with the. Thank you. Thanks. 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 I will. So I will.
Okay.
I have your notes right on top.
Yeah, it's 100%.
Item 11A, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3825, an ordinance amending the Broken Arrow Code of Ordinances. Oh, sorry. Curtis Green.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. In order to become effective, ordinances are required to be published within 15 days of approval in a paper of general circulation. The ordinances and emergency clauses that are before you this evening were approved by council in March. However, once they were approved, the required signatures excuse me, were not obtained by the publication deadline for the paper. So we're bringing these back to you for approval again this evening in order to have them published within the 15 days with the required signatures.
Okay. Can we vote on them all at once? I guess not.
Unfortunately, no, because
Okay.
we've got
Because
emergency clauses that have to be
Okay.
ruled on separately.
I'll make a motion to approve the corrected ordinance 3825.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. We have a motion to move for emergency clause.
So moved.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item C is consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3826 corrected.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 3826 corrected.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Roll call.
And I'll move the emergency clause when it comes up.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 11E is consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3829 corrected.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
I'll move for the emergency clause.
It said no second required. Curtis, does my name need to be on there for a second? It didn't let me click it. It went on to the next thing. And then when it popped up, it said no second required. So just for record, I seconded it.
Thank you, and we'll get that,
I
we'll
think
make
this
sure
is
it's
doing the
correct in
same
the
thing.
minutes.
The emergency clauses. Oh, it's letting you second, okay.
We have a motion and a second. All right. Remarks and inquiries by governing body members. Well, that was fun.
I would like to invite everybody to the Trash Bash this Saturday, April the 20th. Bring your shredding and your tires and your batteries and all kinds of things that you don't want in your house to the events park from 8 to 12. And you can find out more information on our website. And there's even a cute little, I posted on my Facebook page, a video that they did promoting the Trash Bash as well. So.
Yeah. Well, I want to say the city did a really great job with Bounce VA. It was
Oh, yeah.
packed. We went
It
right
was
at the beginning,
packed.
but I heard it was packed the entire time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was amazing. PACCAR did their 100th anniversary car show, which was really cool. They had some fun rides out there, so that was cool.
Did Erin was going to send some pictures, I thought, on Bounce BA. Maybe she didn't have time to do that. I asked her to send some pictures just to let everyone
Yeah.
see because it was so packed. And
There we go.
okay, and then the food courts were, the food trucks were so packed.
Yeah.
But I think that team, they did a great job. Like it was amazing, and it was just really good.
Yeah,
It
the
was,
community said it's one of the best events they've been to. And my daughter and I, our new business, we actually had a booth out there, and it was packed the entire time.
yeah, I'm sure
was
that
great.
we'll see this again.
And
It was so fun.
Justin did come by and play.
Did the
in
sensory
our,
tables?
in our sensory bins. So yeah,
There were approximately 12,500 visitors for that event.
Nice.
yeah, it was a perfect day too.
Yeah, it was a
Little
perfect
windy.
day. It
I
was-
had to hold down our tent half
Yeah.
the time. I was like standing holding the tent the whole time. But
Well, the team did a great job, and I just wanted to publicly
it
too.
was
So
great.
thanks for bringing that up, Mayor.
Yeah.
But they did a great job. Thanks for sharing the pictures.
Thanks for mentioning the Trash Bash. I will not be able to go because I'll be on my way to Switzerland.
Yes, it's exciting.
So,
Yes.
We've already made that announcement at council, right, or no? So I may not get this whole totally right, but I think there were 12 female mayors, 12 female mayors across the nation that was invited to go to Switzerland to see how they do government business. And our mayor, Deborah Wimpy, was one of the 12. So we're really proud. Looking forward to a nice report. Are you gonna buy wooden shoes while you're there?
I'm gonna get chocolate and cheese
That's
and Swatch
Holland.
watches.
Oh, is that Holland? Oh, never mind. Well, I'll take some
It's not
chocolate.
Holland, yeah.
Okay, I'll take some chocolate.
And I did want to announce the senior fair is Friday, April 26th, and it's a great event just to come out and walk around. It's at the community center, Central Park Community Center, from Friday, April 26th, from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.
And the trash bash and the senior fair are all free.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
The 27th, the Elks Lodge will have their barbecue, which I will be flying in the night of the 26th from Switzerland, and then I'm going to judge barbecue from 12 to 4. Yeah.
Well, if you're
better
jet
have
lagged,
some
just let me know.
Yeah,
and
I'll be
take
jet
your
lagged and
place.
in a meat coma by 4:15, so
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
For the
I'm gonna
Broken Arrow
it's gonna be
neighbors.
fine, yeah.
Kayla.
All right, city manager?
Mayor, I'm going to defer my comments because we still have some good things to talk about on the other two agendas.
Okay. All right, we do have an executive session.
I'll move to go into BAM and Beta, take a brief recess to go into BAM and Beta.
I'll second that.
Green,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes. I call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority meeting to order. Roll call.
Green,
Here.
Ford,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 5A, presentation and discussion of proposed new elevated water storage tank in South Broken Arrow. Charlie Bright.
It's been a while since I've talked to you guys now. So. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, trustees, and General Manager. Just here today to give a presentation on an old project that's coming back up, just make sure you guys are aware of it. I think it was back in like 2013, we did a study, water modeling throughout the city, looked at issues and growth in the future, and at the time we identified low pressures as an issue for South Broken Arrow, kind of as we have continued growth with our system. It wasn't an immediate thing, but it was one of those things that we're gonna have to get to eventually. I think in 2016, we decided that we needed an elevated water storage tank somewhere in South Broken Arrow. There was a corridor of an area that was identified that really made sense for the tank, and that was around the Lynn Lane area from 101st to 111th, I believe, and that's due to the elevation of the land in that area. The land's a little bit higher, so that makes it to where the tower could be shorter, you know, to get the water as high up in the air as we wanted. And so that was identified, and I think in 2016, 2017, we bought the property that we are discussing tonight, but after that, the project kind of got put on hold due to the cost of the project and some other priorities we had within our utility system at the time. We have now kind of gone through some of our priorities and have a plan of how we're addressing things, and we feel like the funding is now in place better with our OWRB loans that we can afford to get started back on the project. So the project's already 90% designed. We just, obviously it happened before a lot of us were here on this council, so we wanted to bring it back to your attention and let you know that we're getting started on it again in preparation for getting it ready for bid. But the project location's right there at Lynn Lane and New Orleans Street on the northeast corner. I believe the picture that we showed on the other slide gives a general description of what the tank will look like when it's done. And we really just wanted the trustees to be understanding of what we were going to be doing.
I believe we talked about this last year. There was going to be a synthetic material, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
yeah.
I think you're going to fit my picture on it since it's in my ward.
We can probably make something work.
That's exactly what I was gonna ask Councilor Green. Of course, we don't want Branson on there, but.
Do I get my face on the New Orleans Square one? I get on that water tower?
But I do feel like branding is important for that. I mean, I don't know if that was, is that included in all
Yeah,
this?
absolutely. And I think that picture there is the spec of
I
the
see
drawings
in the middle.
itself.
Okay, sorry.
But we, repainting tanks like this is actually very expensive in today's world, but painting it the first time is not that bad. So we'll definitely plan on branding it while we paint it.
What size of tank is it?
That is not locked in yet, to my understanding. Talking to our team, I think we're thinking between 2 and 2.5 million gallons, but I don't think we finalized the number yet.
I think the one at Norland Square is 1 million gallons.
That's correct.
Okay. Wow.
Well, it'll be the same height as the one in Norland.
Basically, to Charlie's point, I'm sorry, go ahead, Charlie.
You're fine.
To Charlie's point, we already own this land. We purchased it a few years ago. It's about 12 acres out to the section lines. There's only about 3 or 4 spots in Broken Arrow left that we can actually build an elevated tank that would be of similar height as Norland Square. I believe that one's 187 feet. So we need to be right around the 715 to 720 elevation. There's only a handful left. As you keep going further south, that tank would be taller and taller. So
Yeah, I think to Mr. Schwab's point, my understanding is back in 2017, we identified 4 properties that actually gave us the elevation we needed to be. And 2 of those properties were already being platted for other developments. And so we purchased one of the 2 remaining properties that gave us the option we needed.
No.
Like he said, if we went any lower, our tower has to start getting taller.
A little over 7 pounds a gallon. That's gonna be a lot of concrete to hold that up.
Yes, sir. My understanding, and I haven't done many tanks like this, my understanding the concrete we see on the outside is not actually the structure
Correct.
holding facility. It's actually steel in the middle holding it up. The
Right.
concrete's not doing a lot of the holding.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
yeah, this is called a composite tank.
Correct.
If you just did a steel tank, it'd be a little cheaper, but like Charlie said, now you've got a lot more painting over
I
time.
was just talking about the water itself, weight.
Yeah. Yeah. It's being held up by a steel structure inside the concrete.
Looks nice.
Any other questions?
It's gonna sit back off the road. It's not gonna be right there on the intersection. So mention a little bit that, Charlie, about what the plan is.
Yeah, we had a site plan of generally what our design is there, but as you can see, this is north facing up, Lynn Lane right there. It's sitting back to the property line, in the far northeast corner. I don't remember the exact distances, but I think we're a couple hundred feet off.
Do you think all the neighbors know that it's gonna go in there?
Well, I think that's part of our purpose of being here tonight, was to notify you and notify the public. I don't imagine many of them are aware.
We've had a conversation with 1 or 2, but there's probably 5 or 6 that are in proximity that we would definitely want to alert.
I mean, that was really our purpose of making the presentation, was just being transparent about what's coming.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Charlie.
There's no general authority business. Remarks from governing body members? City manager?
I have none.
We have no executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority meeting to order. We have item D pulled for discussion. Is there any other items to be removed?
Hang on, I need
Oh,
to call roll.
call.
That's all right.
I
Trying
have
to
to
move
say
this right
here.
along.
Green,
Here.
Ford,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Okay. Are there any other items besides D?
Make a motion we approve the consent agenda with the exception of D.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
This
Nope.
shows motion. I think we need to go home.
It showed that Johnny made the motion, and I seconded it, but just didn't let us vote. But now it's gone.
Try to remotion.
Can you put your motions in, or your motion and your second in again? We'll try.
Okay.
Okay. And no.
There we go.
There we go.
Whoops.
Oh, yep.
Wrong click.
There we go.
All
Thank you.
right. Item D, a notification of Aspen Ridge Development update. Is that you, ma'am?
And I requested for this to be talked and, or discussed in open meeting, because I love to make Jennifer get up and make a presentation.
It's great practice for me.
Yes, yeah.
No, absolutely. Good evening, trustees, and I'm happy to discuss this development on the
monthly development, you'll see that there's not, since construction is still ongoing, you're not going to see like a bunch of brand new, but I want to talk about what currently is going in there and then answer any questions that you have. So on the development agreement, we did put on there that the developer will be before you May 7th, I believe, is the meeting to discuss kind of the timelines and some of the requirements for the economic development agreement, specifically related to any adjustments that need to be made. Will be coming before this body to for your feedback and input. On what is currently coming on is the Chick-fil-A. You've seen that is almost complete within the area. The research construction continues, so the developer and the development group has said that the construction will be done in June. And we've heard that. Staff looks at it and goes, are you sure? Even the developer kind of questioned that. That is still to schedule. I actually went and talked to some of the contractors this morning to verify that is still part of their construction schedule. So the bulk of what needed to be done has been done. So that's being worked on. Now, as far as in the development agreement, it did say will be constructed and operated. That is another question to find out when will this be operated. Currently, I believe from Mr. Easley, we've gotten from researchers that they are seeking, let me pull up my notes, August, September, to be open and under operation. And we're going to verify that before the next meeting to talk to you guys about that. Panda Express construction is still ongoing. Taco Bell construction has started. There's another restaurant that I'm almost close to being able to announce. I should be able to announce it next month. That is under construction, and so everything's progressing within that development. I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
So the questions that I'm getting from the public, which I talked to you about earlier, what are about the 200,000 square feet. Whenever I read it originally, I mean, so what we were told, and originally when Mr. Easley made the presentation, this was going to be a very walkable. He made that comparison like Utica Square, but we never thought it was going to look like Utica Square really, but just the walkability. And so right now what I'm seeing is I'll be able to walk from the Come and Go to the Panda to the Taco Bell to the Chick-fil-A to the, yeah. And so I want to make sure, the 200,000 square feet isn't just going to be fast food restaurants.
So what I have right now, so the development agreement was 200,000 square feet of commercial development. And one of the questions I got asked was is that just retail or is that fast food? And it just specifically states commercial development.
Well, it does say commercial and retail.
Commercial and retail.
Right. Okay.
So what I did right now was I looked through kind of like the percentages. We haven't added up as far as the square footage rates of all of the construction because it's still under construction. There's some lots that haven't been spoken for at this time. But the developer does believe, and we do believe, that he's going to make the 200,000 square foot requirement from what's currently on there. So basically, because we haven't surveyed or measured, we do have like the building sizes, but you look at like Come and Go, for example. Come and Go, their cells are also within their parking lot, at the gas pumps and those type of things. Mm-hmm. So I think to answer your question is we looked at just some of the lot sizes and compared them to the overall development, took research out of it to see like what are their percentage rates, what are we looking at. So currently what we have right there is we have about 8% of the overall what's available and what's filled is considered non-fast food. So 8% of the development, 9% right now is kind of a lot size mixed use retail strip. So that's the two 6,500 square foot retail strips that were announced last month. There could possibly be they are talking about maybe a drive-through at some of them, but they will be retail strips with kind of that traditional strip. As far as, what's considered fast food, about 32% of the development right now is fast food. 4% is QSR, so that's quick serve restaurants, those sit-down type. And then 47% is unspoken for. So there's quite a bit of the development that hasn't been spoken for as far as lots. And so hopefully that provides you with the information that you're being asked.
Okay. Yeah, that's mainly because, and people are excited about the fast food options, although, we have a Taco Bell, at New Orleans Square, and I understand that Taco Bell is not going away, and we have a come and go, you know, a mile down the road, mile and a half down the road. So I think some of those, I mean, while we're happy that that's happening, I just want to make sure that there's going to be some retail in there that isn't just a grocery store and a bunch of fast food restaurants.
And that's something that Norm Stevens and I have reiterated, you know, as far as what the authority would like to see within the area. And, you know, he definitely will be before council or before the authority next month to have further discussions regarding that.
Good deal.
How about the apartments? When are they going to be scheduled to, I know they're depending on it for some of this customers here.
Absolutely. So the apartments, that's one of the things that will be discussed, as well as far as adjusting, if the authority wishes to adjust the timeline for that within the economic development agreement. So the developer's in the process of signing an agreement within a group that will construct the apartment complex. And Mr. Easley has advised that construction will begin in January of 2025 for those apartment complexes. And I think it was an 12 to 18 month construction period.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
You know, one thing I think probably would be a good idea is that if we take a couple minutes every time we have an update and we give a verbal and we discuss it rather than just being on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I agree.
I need to be, yeah.
And yeah, the thing is, this is a project that the city has invested heavily in. And so we have a vested interest in what we were told that actually happened. And I mean, that's my expectation, that when I'm told something that's what happens. I don't think that's too much to ask. So.
No, I think the developer also, I agree with you, the developer also needs to come and give an update, because obviously, you know, finances, you know, the economy and so forth, if that's playing into the development, then the council needs to be aware of that, and he needs to stand accountable for the agreement that he signed.
Right.
So that way staff I can tell you, there's conversation that go on a regular basis with the developer in terms of status of what's happening with the project. You know, sometimes there are variables that are outside the control of the city, and if there is something, then I think it'd be best. And Mr. Easley's been before this body on multiple occasions, and I don't think you'll have a problem coming back and let us know where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, it has been 3 years since we broke ground, so I mean, I think it's not like we're pushing.
We've been pretty patient.
Yeah.
Ready to see something.
All right, item 5 is 5A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a name and logo for Broken Arrow Innovation District.
Do we need to vote? Okay.
Just
It's
an
in the
update.
consent. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Trustees, Council. I always get confused on City Manager, what I call you in this session. Thank you. I was surprised I could stand up. I mean, my legs were, it's been exciting. But what I'm excited to come here to think about was Jennifer and I were saying, wow, it's been 3 years for Reesers, and this is one of those projects where you're like, yeah, it's been a lot of years on this one as well. But we're excited to make a huge step today. The Innovation District Committee is here to present you 2 final logo options for the naming of the 90 acres parcel of land that has been referred to as the Innovation District. The naming and branding of this district is crucial to the next step of promoting properties with a focus on primary jobs in advanced manufacturing and technology. The Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors approved a contract with Acker by Ant on January 24th with the Amplify Broken Arrow funds to assist in broking and providing the branding of the Innovation District land. Acker by Ant conducted roundtables with committee members, board members, and other key stakeholders, including you as council, to get initial direction for the names and the logos. Through the process of feedback, meetings, and electronic voting, we're here to present you with the final 2 names and logo options. Brian and Chelsea from Acrobat are here tonight to walk through these logos, kind of how we got here. It was definitely, some of the names even changed in the middle of the meeting. Mayor had a great change to one because we realized Amanda made a comment that there's a lot of creeks out there. And so we realized that maybe a little bit of a change to some of those names would work. So this was definitely an input process that happened through, was definitely not a check the box process. This has been, I can't even tell you which my favorite is. I haven't, I've told nobody, so nobody knows what I think. But this has truly been a committee driven process. And so I'm going to give you an update. They're going to come up here. But what's key tonight, and I do ask if we can, staff and both the city staff and the EDC staff would really love a name to move forward with some official documents that we need to craft, and it would be a lot easier to have an official name in referencing these documents. And so if a name could be decided, that would be a great Christmas present. But that does not have to be done tonight, but we are requesting a name decision. On the logos, you can pick a logo tonight, or if there's some different changes or modifications or colors that you would like to see, we can reflect those and bring those back. So we really defer to you on the process for this evening, but both city and chamber EDC staff would love a name so that we can move forward with the engineering process and some of the zoning and platting processes. So once we do finalize this logo, just kind of let you know what the next steps will be. Immediately, they'll be building us a landing page and signage. And so then we'll be looking to the city manager for direction on the date when that is released in a public manner, and including a timeline and groundbreaking and things like that. But what will allow for us is an immediate quiet promotion from a branding standpoint, from attracting on the land. So we can continue to build that brand when we're answering to RFPs and RFIs, as well as working on outward attraction processes. So I would like to call up either Chelsea or Brian come forward and talk to logos.
Hi, good evening, Council. Thanks for having me. I think this is the most exciting part of the development, of course, for me as being a designer. I've been doing this for 30 years, and this is a very exciting development. I was born and raised in Broken Arrow, so seeing this come to Broken Arrow is really exciting for me, and I'm really excited to be part of the process. So what we're going to do tonight is kind of go over what a logo really is. A logo takes an idea and starts to bring it to life, and that's what is most exciting for me. And what we're trying to do here is develop the personality and the colors, the name, and everything to make it a cohesive package to attract tenants, to attract business. And what we're really trying to say is Broken Arrow is moving forward. And there's a lot of different keynotes that we're going to go through at each one of these logos that hopefully help create that message. So the first one is Arrow Forge. And feel free to ask questions or anything like this. We went through quite a process. I think I developed, our team of designers, we developed 25, 30 different logos, and so we've narrowed it down to these two. So hopefully these two, we're going to find a solution here. So Arrow Forge, the name kind of says itself. Arrow itself is self-explanatory, but the forge part is taking something and moving it forward through heat, shaping it, molding it. And so these two words together have a strong name. Arrow Forge, I like the sound of it. And within the O, this is called a fixed logo. So you usually have a logo, an icon. The icon goes above the typography or surrounds it. This is a fixed logo, so the icon is fixed within the type, and we'll show you a different variation on another type of logo. But Arrow Forge, it's a fixed logo. You can see how it works both vertically and horizontally. That's why we presented it in signage. And whenever we do create a logo, we want to make sure that it works in all different applications, and keep in mind that signage is typically, for development, is the #1 usage. And that's what's most visible. That's what most of the public are going to see. So that's why we're showing signage right off the get-go. And so we also wanted to show how it works vertically and horizontally, depending on how the developer wants to use it. So.
I'll say with Arrow Forge, original look had the R.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it wasn't in the forge, but it looked like Reese's R.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
that's
all
right.
I'm seeing is Reese's.
So you saw the original modification. Did you see all the other logos that we did too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you've seen the process that we go through together. So Yeah, I'm really happy with these two. You know, and also just to explain the 3 arrows within the O there, that's expression of moving forward. That's 3 arrows. It's 3 arrowheads basically, and it's a very nice design motif that could be used in a lot of the collateral material. Just taking the arrows themselves or that O and using it as like a Nike symbol or something like that to use in marketing materials. Because whenever we develop these logos, these have to be on, you know, anything from signage, outdoor, letterhead, T-shirts, all the things. So we want to keep it commercially in mind for all those applications. And as far as color usages, what I typically go for, you know, simplicity is key when you're developing a brand. Simplicity equals timelessness. And you don't want to be doing another logo 10 years from now. So we want to keep it simple and timeless, and that's going to help last a long time. And usually when you're dealing with this, a darker color mixed with a bright color works best in terms of branding. So we presented 3 different colors. All 3 of these work great. It's really a matter of, it's all subjective. You know how color is. And, you know, blue is water, green is grass, yellow is sun. You know how, that goes. So that is Arrow Forge. If we want, we can move on next to Chisholm Bend. Arrow Forge is more of a corporate feel. You know, it's that moving forward corporate feel. It's a very slick typeface. And then we move on to Chisholm Bend. This is a little bit more friendly. This has a more hand-drawn touch to it, you know, hand-drawn typeface as well as a hand-drawn icon. And we wanted to present both of these options to give you both of these feels. And Chisholm Bend has just that human touch that I think is it's friendly, less corporate, but you know, we're trying to appeal to business people as well as, you know, consumers that are coming in. So we want to take that into account. And Chisholm Bend, like I said, the first one is a fixed logo. Chisholm Bend is a modular logo, which means that the icon itself is separate from the typography, so you can see that it's a little bit more diverse in the ways that it can be used. So you can see how it can be on the side, and this is used 3 different ways. So you can see how it's a little bit easier to work with as far as different applications, but not to say that Arrow Forge can't be done, but you can see it's fixed versus a modular logo. And so we've experimented with all these different colors. This has a little bit more color to it because we have changed the color of the background, but those are still your basic colors. We've got the blue, the yellow, and the green. And those are very classic colors. They're not trendy colors. You know, when it comes to branding, you don't want to be outdated in 2 weeks. So we're not doing, you know, I don't know if you keep up with trends, but you know, the PMS 123 that's real popular, that probably won't be in a couple weeks. So again, timelessness and simpleness is kind of what we're going for here. So I'd like to open it up to any questions that you may have as far as the names or the graphics that are going into it.
Well, I definitely like the Arrow Forge. I just feel like you said, forge ahead. Arrows, of course, has broken arrow. My only thing, and I don't know, maybe it'll be the outdated colors that I'm getting ready to tell you, but I wondered why we didn't use like our broken arrow logo yellow or our broken arrow logo blue, like what we already currently use on like those colors.
Yeah, so what we did was we took that and made it just a little bit different, not to conflict with the current city brand standards. And so we're creating our own brand standards here, but we can change it to that. But this yellow is a little bit, do you have the broken arrow yellow that I could show for comparison?
It's on their pins. It's almost, it's close to this orange.
Yeah, is it more orangey yellow?
Yeah, see, it's more orangey. Yeah. See,
I love that color blue. Like that color blue is my very favorite color blue anyway, but I was just thinking consistency because we are putting a lot of money, like it is our.
Yeah, and that is something that we can do. Whenever I choose colors, I choose the best contrasting color for what it is. And I was going for the brightest yellow that wasn't so bright that it looked like I don't know if you're familiar with CMYK, but if it's like 100% yellow, that is just, it feels too harsh. And this one has just the right amount of orange in it. And it's not as orange as the broken arrow, but we can definitely change that if we wanted to. I like this yellow because it pops a little bit more off that black than the current broken arrow yellow.
I think if we go with that, I can just hear people saying, why aren't we doing gold, like a gold? Like, why did we like, people don't think of the city.
Yeah,
They think of
Black and
Broken
gold.
Arrow Tigers.
Oh, I went there, yeah.
Black and gold.
I don't think about Broken Arrow
So,
Tigers. I
yeah.
think
Who do you
about
think
Union
But
Red
most
Hawks.
people
Okay,
do.
okay.
My word.
Mine too.
Most people
Mine
would be.
too.
Yeah,
Green
So-
is
you're
also
right. Most
a
people would think about
Yeah.
it.
classic
Wow.
color,
Yes.
as well as
Counselor's
last
Green.
name.
Yes. I do
just
like,
throwing it out.
I actually do like the blue.
The blue is really pretty. I do like that shade of blue.
Are we leaning towards Arrow Forge
I kind of like
over
the,
Chisholm Bend?
yeah, I like the Arrow
Personally,
Forge the
yeah.
best.
Out of the
I feel like
two,
I've
Arrow
seen the
Forge.
Chisholm Bend one before.
What is the Chisholm?
in Oklahoma City.
I know where the Chisholm Trail is. That
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's the whole historical factor in its
The
relation to the
original
land,
logos
so.
that they brought up was Creek Bend, and Amanda had pointed out that there were so many like Creek,
Aspen Creek.
Aspen Creek,
Yeah.
Creek, you know,
Turnpike. and Creek.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so then if we were trying to give a nod to Muskogee Nation, that's whenever I said, well, what about Chisholm, since.
Well, I like either one, you know, but I'll go with the Arrow Forge. I like the Forge. You know,
They're
making
both
the
great.
building lovely.
What does forge mean?
It means to bend or shape with the use of heat.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
so
like,
it's
wait,
like
I need
this.
to know what this means before I say I like it.
Blacksmith.
Yeah.
We have-
Okay.
Yeah, that's like forging ahead, forging,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
iron. It's a strong word, so.
Okay.
But, you know, that's a good question to ask, because maybe a lot of people won't know what that
Doesn't
means.
like have
but-
any like connotations
Like
to,
bad-
to slavery or any like I mean
We're
you
gonna have
know
to
like
tear
you
down our
hear
monument
you
and
hear
see.
like people like
Yeah.
doing a name and then it
That's a
has
good
like
question
some
to ask, yeah.
connotation
As
later
offended as
that
people
you're
get
like
these days when you
yeah,
ask
okay.
those important questions, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Just
think
making
so.
sure.
You don't want
I
to tear
think
down the
it-
monument in 2 years.
No.
I think it fits well too if we're talking about industrial, you know, making it more of a.
Yes, that was, yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
Fits with
Remind
that,
me
fits
why,
with forging
why you
forward.
thought Bend.
Bend, because of the road that's gonna go through, that's gonna divide the different sectors. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, is that correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember why.
Yeah,
Well, there's a bend in the river not too far from there too.
yeah.
But the definition of forge is to cast, found, mold, create, build.
That's what that park's gonna be doing.
That's
And like a
perfect.
broken
Yeah.
arrow.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
It has a bend.
It doesn't say manufacturing, but we can add it.
Yeah. It's a strong word. I think it
Yeah.
works.
I like it.
My
Wait,
top
are we
choice
agreeing
is
on
the
a
Arrow
name?
Yeah.
Forge.
What color do you like the best?
I'd like to see our
I like
our
the
colors just to see what they look like.
Yeah.
I do agree that it might be exactly what you described, but we could be good to see that.
Yeah.
I like
don't
the
know that it's gonna
consistency,
be as good, like, will it be a good contrast?
Yeah.
Like if we use that bright blue with the black, but I'd like to see it. Can't hurt. See
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Okay, so do we have a consensus?
What I hear, we have a
Name.
consensus for a name, and we would like to look at some other colors.
Yeah, just to
But the
make
name is
sure.
what they needed for sure tonight.
Well, I like that blue, but I think I would like our color better. But I'm just not sure, not seeing it.
Yeah.
When we
I'm
did
just
the
afraid it wouldn't
New
con-
Orleans
the
Square, it
contrast
took the
isn't-
council members a couple of meetings. You came, you gave some direction. You'd come up with a framework, and then you had a couple of changes. You came back
Right.
and you approved it.
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of unique. I don't want it to look exactly like New Orleans Square. We got a big blue
Right.
thing in the middle of New Orleans Square.
Emblem.
Yes,
Emblem,
that's what I said.
branding.
A big blue thing in the middle
brand.
of New Orleans
Jeez.
Square.
It is the brand.
I thought you were
It is
Bob.
Oh, you better.
I'm glad you're out of reach.
Yeah.
Don't even say you clapped hard on New Orleans Square. You put that back in your mouth.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I mean, do we want it to look like everything else in Broken Arrow, or do we want it to stand
No.
out?
No, we want it to
Right.
be different than New Orleans.
But we also want there to be, I mean, our city, because I'm thinking about our gateway signage and like, while we want it to be different, I think there needs to be something that ties it all together.
That's.
Because it is ours. It is our property.
Yeah.
Like
But
it
I
is
was
the
saying it is
city's.
ours. That's what
And
I'm.
we got the arrow
Yeah.
in there that's going to tie it.
Consistency,
to
you're
everything.
right. Consistency is important.
Right.
A couple of these colors I do like. I mean, there's
I like the
Yeah.
yellow color.
That looks orange to me. Next
Yeah,
to
and it
the
can look
black.
different on the
logo looks
screen,
orange
so.
to me.
It does. I never thought it was yellow. I always thought it was orange, like an orangey.
Yeah, you got your printouts, right? I would use the printouts for reference versus
fire.
the different screens can kind of jade the colors a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
Make
We got a
sure-
name.
So I can get, what we could come back and provide you is keep the B and C, blue and gold, and bring back to you also the blue and gold in the city's colors. So you can see those four in contrast.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Would that be work?
Yeah. Yep.
So here's what we did last time, Jennifer. So work with your folks and make the change, and then provide me copies, and then I'll get it to council members so they can look at it in advance and give any feedback. And then I'm sure they'll be ready to make a decision at the next meeting.
But I think we're good with the name.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what you need
And
tonight.
basically the colors.
And basically the colors.
But we just want to see what
But you get
options.
the
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Nice job, everyone.
Yeah. Yay.
All right. There is no general authority business. Remarks from city governing body members? City manager?
I have none, Mayor. We have closed session.
Executive session.
Uh-huh.
Got 2 executive sessions.
Yep, we have executive session here, so entertain a
I'll make a
motion.
motion that we move into, take a brief recess to move into executive session.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Green.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Parks.
Yes.
Gillespie.
Yes.
Wimpy.
Yes.